Evening, and thank you for joining us for this part of our business meeting. And we were discussed in closed session items related to students, and we will be, I'm sorry, I need to focus. Give me just a minute. There we go. We were talking about, we talked about items related to students. No action was taken, and we will start our open session at 6 o'clock, and then, which is right now, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I asked Gianna if she wouldn't mind leading us.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that. And then I will hand it over to Mrs. Reed for our executive summary of our workshop.
Thank you so much, President Hill. Well, it was an amazing start to our day today. We were graced with the presence of the community of Los Alamitos High School. Mrs. Krause, principal, joined us with her administration team as well as her directors. Over 260 students were recognized as we really celebrated the 4 A's at the home of the Griffins. We talked about our football CIF Division II championships, our men's soccer team, which is Division III, as well as the state champions, as well as our returning Grand National champions, both with sound effects, soundtracks, as well as just a plethora of individual student recognitions across academics, athletics, activities, and the arts. And so it really was just an amazing kickoff, especially to be, I think, serenaded in the beginning of the meeting by our Grand National champions. It just really echoed in this building in an amazing way to start the evening. And then we concluded with being able to recognize a long time leader volunteer on our campuses, Mrs. Leon Voigt, who is the hero of the heart at the high school, as well as recognize one of our classified employees of the year, Mrs. Lillian Ford Patterson, who's really made an amazing indent inside our counseling and career services department.
Thank you. This evening. Yes. Thank you very much, Mrs. Reed. We will now move on to Ms. Schmidt, and she's going to give us a fabulous board report.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Pulver, Executive Cabinet, and members of the Los Alamitos community. My name is Bryn Schmidt, and I'm honored to serve as your student representative to the Board of Education from Los Alamitos High School. Here is my report. Activities. The recent Griffins with a Mission activities at Los Alamitos High School provided a meaningful and engaging opportunity for students to connect across grade levels with freshman participants supported by sophomore, junior, and senior leaders. Through a variety of interactive icebreakers ranging from thoughtful discussions on the impact of words to classic games and circle activities, students were able to build trust, reflect, and share openly with one another. These experiences reinforced Guam's core purpose to ensure every student feels supported, valued, and a true sense of belonging on campus. Team-based games further emphasize the importance of communication and collaboration, helping students strengthen relationships in a fun and inclusive environment. Notably, participation reached 77%, representing a significant increase from last year and highlighting growing student engagement. This event marked the second day of a 2-part series that began last semester, continuing to build the momentum and fostering a positive and connected school culture. Academics. On March 12th, we had our recent showcase night, an event designed to welcome incoming 8th grade families and provide a comprehensive look at all that Los Alamitos High School has to offer. Every aspect of the school was represented, including ASB, world languages, the arts, science, history, and more, allowing families to explore the full scope of academic and extracurricular opportunities available to students. The evening provided valuable clarity for incoming families, helping them better understand what their child will be learning and the educators who will be guiding them. Additionally, current families had the opportunity to connect with teachers and see firsthand the work their students have been engaged in, reinforcing the strong partnership between home and school. Athletics. The Los Alamitos High School varsity girls softball team continues to represent our campus with excellence, building on their success as CIF Division II champions. Under the leadership of Coach Rob Wheely and team captain Olivia Maganales, the program has demonstrated both competitiveness and strong team culture throughout the season. Their most notable performance came in a dominant 19-0 victory over Corona Del Mar on March 31st, the team's highest scoring game and largest margin of victory this year. Currently ranked number 35 in the CIF Southern Section and number 14 in Division I, the Griffins continue to compete at a high level. The team will take the field for their senior night on April 28th at 3:15 p.m., an opportunity to celebrate the contributions and dedication of this year's graduating student athletes. Arts. The arts program also shined through its recent jazz show, The Spotlight Show, an imaginative evening of music centered around the theme of creativity and storytelling. Under the direction of Mr. Padilla, students from Jazz 1, Jazz 2, and Jazz 3 delivered outstanding performances that showcase both technical skill and artistic expression. Student leaders Paola, Kieran, and Sully, as lead performers in Jazz 1, helped set the tone for a memorable night that truly captured the spirit of imagination. A special highlight of the evening was a guest appearance by renowned musician James Morrison, which added an exciting and inspirational element for both performers and audience members alike. With one more performance still to come this year, the jazz program continues to be a vibrant and impressive part of our school community. Student life. Student life remained vibrant during our March Activity Week with a series of engaging events led by ASB that brought energy and connection throughout our campus. One of the highlights was Pi Day, where seniors from ASB and Griffin News invited students to participate in reciting digits of pi for a chance to pie someone in the face, an activity that generated excitement and laughter while bringing students together. In addition, ASB members came to campus on Sunday evening to chalk the grounds with positive messages and festive drawings inspired by St. Patrick's Day, creating an uplifting atmosphere for students as they arrived on Monday morning. The week also featured a popular dirty soda stand, offering students a refreshing treat and something to look forward to during the school day. Altogether, these activities fostered a school spirit, positivity, and a strong sense of community across campus. Student Spotlight. To close out my report, I would like to highlight an exceptional Griffin, Swasia. Swasia began her journey in this district as a Weaver whale, then became an Eagle at McAuliffe, and is now a proud senior at Los Alamitos High School. She is highly involved on campus, taking rigorous courses including AP Calc BC, AP Stats, AP Environmental Science, AP Gov, and AP Econ. She's also part of multiple clubs including NHS, CSF, Red Cross, Growing Up STEM, and Lead Hers. While still exploring college options, she wants to attend Boston University. Her favorite part about being a Griffin is being surrounded by people who are driven and genuinely care about what they do. It makes school more meaningful because you're part of something that actually has energy and pride. Outside of school, Swasia is a part of cross country and orchestra and also does SAT tutoring, martial arts, intern at SCAN, where she works in healthcare outreach. Swasia's kindness, leadership, and dedication make her an outstanding role model, and I am proud to feature her in this month's Student Spotlight. With that, I would like to open the floor to any questions or comments from the board. Thank you all for joining me in my second to last student board report.
Bren, I just want to say that it was, we had the high school here today, and I just felt like we were aware a lot of what the high school was going to highlight today, because you have done such an extraordinary job of really keeping us informed, and we just really appreciate it and appreciate your incredible light.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any comments? Thank you very much. We'll now hand it over to our superintendent, Dr. Polar.
Thank you, Madam President Brenda. As always, it's a pleasure to follow you, and that student showcase that night was spectacular. It was really phenomenal, so I love that you highlighted that, and always love the student update that you give us as well at the very end. So tonight, for my superintendent's report, as we wait for it to get loaded, I wanted to just highlight our rock stars of the month. What's beautiful or wonderful about our Rockstar program is our staff get to nominate other staff members that they want to recognize. And so we did both the month of February and March because it was such a busy time. And so I'm really pleased to be able to highlight Jill Cruz, who's a TOSA elementary. TOSA means teacher on special assignment. We have a lot of acronyms in education. It really does a lot of PD and professional development and trainings and support within mathematics at the elementary level. And what I love is one of the employees who nominated her was one of our ed specialists, an RSP teacher at Rossmore, who just went on to say how much that Jill, whenever she's trying to find different math manipulatives or solutions to work with some of our students with special needs, Jill will come running to Rossmore and provide additional supports and things of that sort. And so I think sometimes we think our TOSA is supporting the gen ed students, but it was really powerful to see what an impact that our TOSAs do to support all kids as well. And so additionally, we were also able to recognize Maddie Main, who's been with us for a couple years, as a speech and language pathologist at McAuliffe Middle School, and has just done an exceptional job and going above and beyond and finding so many ways to kind of support really diverse learners on the campus. And so it was a pleasure to be able to recognize her. And then our classified employees of both February and March, these were for both. Lindsay Adams, who has been just a rock, if you imagine, in our extended daycare program. Our extended daycare program is bursting at the seams. We actually can't accommodate all the requests that our parents have for wanting after school or before school childcare because we can't hire enough staff to be able to provide. And so they really have just done a wonderful job. The ELOP, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, has really also thrived because we provide free daycare program services if you qualify for ELOP from kinder through sixth grade. And so Lindsay just does a wonderful job serving both our students and our families and our community. And then Katie McGonigal, who is the school office coordinator. This is her first year as a school office coordinator. She's been with us for many years in other clerical roles at McAuliffe Middle School, and she's just doing an exceptional job. We're piloting a time carding system for our classified employees. It's not without its hiccups and a ton of organization. And she's just done it flawlessly and has kept us, she stays so calm and unflappable and just does great work. So we were really proud to be able to recognize our February and our March rock stars of the month. And then this past weekend, I was really pleased to be able to celebrate our all-district band and orchestra festival. It was a packed house. We so packed that we had to divide the show into two different performances. One at 1 p.m. and that was for band for all from elementary all the way up to 12th grade. It was so cute too because we partner with the youth center for some of our primary, second and third grade and younger. And then our music teachers at 4th and 5th grade, which were our students doing recorders. And then just as to see the progression from our middle school band and jazz programs to Los Alamitos High School, it was spectacular and a huge accolades to our band and music teachers. You'll see them pictured there down in the left bottom left picture. Their song selections that they picked were so incredible and just upbeat and relevant, and it just was a wonderful opportunity for our community. Our community enjoyed it. When I welcomed them, I let them know that we are looking at a new performing arts center, and I know that's going to be later on our agenda, and we're exploring a couple different options there. And so they were excited to hear because, of course, at the high school, our band and our orchestra perform in our performing arts center as well. So thank you to Ed Services. This is a huge feat. Melissa Davis organizes along with our music teachers to put on such a phenomenal performance and really highlight the talent and the progression of talent of our music instrumental program across our district. So, and as you all know, well, maybe you don't all know, but I think just about every single board member was there as well. So it was just a really great celebration. And then you might see that many of us here tonight are wearing purple, and that is very intentional. Several years ago, we had a student in our district who really educated us, and then since then has kind of put a lasting. This is now forever imprinted in our mind, knowing that April is the month of the military child, and that really wearing purple is kind of a sign to show your symbol and support. It's the kind of the color of all the Army branches. Military branches coming together. And so April really is the month of the military child. It's a time to recognize and honor strength, resilience, and the true sacrifices of our military connected students and families. And I think we're really fortunate. We are proud in Los Alamitos Unified. Over 47% of our district boundaries are made up by 2 military bases, and that's the Joint Force Training Base and the Naval Weapons Station in Seal Beach, who we serve many families as part of our school community. And so this community always really has a heart for our military. And it's really about the children of families who live in who work in the military. They endure often very frequent moves, school transitions, extended separations from loved ones during deployment. Despite these challenges, they demonstrate remarkable adaptability, perseverance, and strength. And I know several of us board members were able to go to McGaw Elementary does a flag deck ceremony, and it was spectacular, and the students wrote poems, etc. And I won't speak too much more about that because I think some of you might during your public comment or during your board comment. But as a community, and as a district, we remain committed to supporting our military connected students by what we hope is, while they're here, providing them stability, connection, a strong sense of belonging across our schools. And the military has really partnered with us. They provide military counselors at many of our school sites and at the levels to kind of make sure that we're providing support to our connected military families. And it's just something across the district. We've seen a lot of different activities go on throughout this month. There are people trying to purple up to just as a visible reminder to show our appreciation and our support. And I thought it might be nice to kind of highlight the number of students in our military at each elementary school, at each of our schools that are part of the military. Across the district, we have a total of just shy of 450 students whose families are actively serving in our military. And this beautiful bulletin board is at McGaw, and in the military counselors, they've created a dedicated kind of well space of sorts for them, and they did their own portfolios of "I am a military child." And so you can see the breakdown of the number of students. You see, obviously, our larger numbers are at LAE. If you think about that, that's right near the Joint Force Training Base, McAuliffe Middle School, and McGaw. But our biggest number, and sometimes I think we forget because all of our students end up at the high school, but Los Alamitos High School with 127 students. And so this is something that really all of our schools take deep pride on, and really trying to recognize the sacrifices and the unique challenges that families in the military endure. And then last Friday, we had our district longevity. We get to go out to every school site and recognize longevity of our employees. And we do it in 5-year increments and they get a pin at 5, 10, 15. And we went all the way up to 35 years, I think. On Friday, we did district office staff. And it was so great to be able to recognize. We recognized Chris Forehand for serving 5 years on the Board of Education. And our own president, Miss Diana Hill, who's celebrating her 15th year of service in her role. So I wanted to congratulate and thank them for their dedicated service as well. And lastly, I wanted to share, I believe they leave, if they haven't left already, I think they might leave tomorrow. Just continues to find more ways that this is such an incredible community. Our Los Alamitos High School song team is representing the United States of America. Only one high school in the entire nation is asked to represent the United States of America in an international competition. in Florida. And so they were just in Florida for just the regular annual competition but only one team. And so they're competing in the POM category. And so we wish them well. Go USA and go Griffin strong. So thank you. These are our senior Griffins that are on the song team, but the whole team will obviously be able to get to go. And so we'll be rooting them on and thanking them for representing our country and our district well. And with that, that is the end of my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. That's some wonderful things. So as usual, I'm going to mix it up a bit. So Mr. Bragman, we'll start with you.
Was waiting for that green light to come on. Thank you very much, President Hill. So I'd love to take a few moments just to highlight some of the incredible experiences that I've had over the past month or so. Just going back 2 weekends ago, I was able to visit our Los Al Golden Griffins, our robotics team at Anaheim's arena. If you haven't been to that arena before, it's amazing. It holds about 8,000 people, and about half of it was full with fans cheering on our robotics team and the best of Southern California. It was really great to be there I know Ms. Hill and Ms. Davidson were also able to join me, and we were watching at home. I know Ms. Forehand and Ms. Partisani were getting updates through text and watching the live stream. We could not be more proud of our robotics team. They came, it was their 10th anniversary. It was their first time making the Southern California Championships in a long time. They made the semifinals of a regional event and made it. They did not make the World Championships, but they did us so very proud with the way they innovated and worked together. Also, one of the key things we saw is them helping other teams, and I think that really is the Griffin way. So want to shout out Team 6220, the Golden Griffins, on their great year, and can't wait to see them again next year, and hopefully they'll be in Houston at the World Championships. Other events, it's really been a busy time at the high school. And so if people don't know, a lot of our sports teams participate in unified events where they bring in some of our most exceptional students to support them and be a part of the team. And so some of us board members and staff were able to go out. Baseball hosted a unified sports day where they had students come out and throw the ball around and hit and go out and do the ceremonial first pitch. And it was just a really cool way to see the inclusivity at our high school, to see that all students really are welcome, and really the collaboration, the friendship, and just the smiles amongst our team and the students that were joining them. It was awesome. So I hope that when other sporting events happen, and we have our Griff Friends coming up, I think in May, if people can make it out to that event, it's a really special day in our district, and I hope people will come out and see our exceptional students and our Griffins come together for just community. Last week was a buzz of activity with athletics on campus, but what was really cool also was getting to see the senior day on our track and field meet. I have not been to a track and field meet on our campus before. If you have not been to one, we won't have another opportunity until next year. But there's not a boring moment on track and field. There is something going on everywhere you look. It is the dream of someone with attention needs like me. And you just cannot be bored. And so we had a ton of our students have personal records and personal bests, high jump and 100-meter dashes and team events. It was awesome. And the event culminated with us winning a league championship. And then they proceeded to go into the weekend and win the Orange County Championship. And so we have students that will be competing, I believe, in CIF. So huge shout out to our Griffins. It was really cool. Another example, we had a student who'd been in a car accident who was not able to compete, but she walked her 100-meter dash, and her friends met her at the end wearing her Converse All-Stars, but she did it and she finished, and it was fun to see her out there. It was her first day being able to compete in a long time. And so she walked, but she did it. So a really, really wonderful event. And then lastly, I know Dr. Pulver and I were able to visit LAE last week. Such an amazing community, such a great campus. Really cool to see just the investment that's happening on that campus with new murals on walls. We saw LAIF grants being put in action with new planters and like biome-specific California vegetables growing in different sections. And so I really wanted to just shout out the Ms. Padilla and the whole staff and team there for the community that they're building at LAE's campus. It was awesome. It was fun. I know we all get to visit campuses, but that was a really great one for me to get to kind of give me a little life after the spring break. So I am so excited for what we call May-Cember in our family, the craziness of May, where there's an event every single day. But it's such a fun and exciting time. So I appreciate the opportunity to share and can't wait to hear other board members saw.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bragman. Mrs. Partisani. Told you I was going to mix it up.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you and good evening. One thing that's clear is that our district continues to create meaningful opportunities for students to thrive across the 4 A's. And tonight, I'd like to highlight 2 areas that are grounded in student learning. First, the Artificial Intelligence Task Force that's led by Dr. Bennett.
What stands out to me is the dual focus that has been created as part of this task force. Not only are we developing a thoughtful roadmap for AI literacy and instructional practices, but we're also building staff capacity through hands-on exploration of tools. And I really feel like this approach of learn, pilot, and refine before you scale across the different campuses, it really reflects the commitment that we have to responsible, student-centered innovation. And I'm really excited to be part of this task force, but I'm also really looking forward to see what they're going to bring forward to all of our campuses next year. Secondly, our district advisory committee meetings that are led by Mrs. Melissa Davis. This work brings together staff and parent volunteers from across all 9 schools to analyze the LCAP survey data. So if you haven't filled out those LCAP surveys that are sent to you, it's still open, so there's an opportunity. Please do so, because that feedback really helps us identify trends. It helps us shape district goals, and it's really a strong, we really pride ourselves on the information, both quantitative and qualitative, that's provided to us by the community. And it's really a strong example of using our data and the community voice to help guide decisions that directly impact student outcomes. And finally, and I'm really excited to share this, I'm going to try to hold it up to give it some props. I'd like to recognize the launch of Griffin Gazette's first print edition, The Insight. And this is an exciting milestone that elevates student voice, supports real-world learning, and reflects the strength of our academic programs. I really wanted to take the time to congratulate all the student writers, the editors, the visual design team, and the teachers that support them for coming up with this. This is first edition. So if you're interested to see it digitally, it's available right now. And I believe they're going to start passing them out in the English classes all throughout the high school. So yay, go Griffin Gazette. And back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forham.
I want to focus my 3 minutes around our goal number 3, which is to foster collaboration, partnerships, and shared responsibility among students, families, staff, and the community to champion unlimited possibilities. Or I take this to mean it takes a village, and we have the best village to reach unlimited possibilities. I serve on the SELPA board and the Community Advisory Committee, which is made up of 6 surrounding districts in support of the needs and programs for special ed kids. And they sponsor their community Advisory Committee awards, which demonstrate the commitment of staff to do the extras for our kids with special needs and sharing the responsibility for this. Our parents and staff nominate teachers, instructional assistants, a OAK psychologist, and even the LAE-PTA to receive the award for going over and above for kids. And I'd like to highlight the LAE-PTA for winning one of the awards for ensuring inclusion for our kids with special needs in all the PTA activities. Other examples throughout our district clearly reinforces that it takes a village to make a difference. And believe me, I could go way over my 3 minutes, but I will not. For example, parent Brian Morris at Oak, who gives all his time to support the drama program at Oak, and he is actually a parent of a choir daughter. Instructional assistant Lynette at the high school attends every high school musical program to ensure that a student with special needs gets to perform with the orchestra. Jackie, the office clerk at Hopkinson, who does all the behind the scenes prep for the Huskies to get to Sacramento on their field trip. And our own Miss Tina, who behind the scenes made, I was told, 287 certificates that we handed out to student athletes performers this afternoon. And what about the 2 choir parents who drove all the props to Florida, all the way to Florida? Griffin clubs who plan and support our kids with autism, with special events and activities. And the tech student crews at the high school who are kids behind the scenes who work for show choir, to excel in events in Florida and Oceanside, and for our middle school drama programs, and also the high school drama program. And parents everywhere who support events with donations, their time and energy. As I said, these are just a few of how this community and staff make a difference for all kids. But I always like to end with a student, and he's an Oak eighth grader. His name is Jack, who I observed at the Into the Woods drama show, where he was in charge of all the lighting for the show. And his commitment, his extra time, and his actually expertise behind the scenes goes over and above to make the show outstanding. And I will conclude with, we have a village, and it makes it all happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forham. Mrs. Davidson, I bet you figured out you're next.
Yeah, it was process of elimination. I can do that math. Okay, so I was able to join Andrew, Diana, and Nicole, and so many others at the flag ceremony at McGaw honoring our military children. One thing, I'd just like to highlight what I felt touched hearts across the crowd, and it was a big crowd. 5 students from the military families got up, and each one recited a line proudly from the military creed. Then 6 more students stood up in front of this large crowd to share their poems from their hearts, that they wrote about what it means to be a military child. Their words were filled with honesty, revelation, pride, and sometimes sadness. In all that transpired that morning, there was a thread to the message to never forget the courage and sacrifices of our military families. We can't even imagine what they're willing to yield. They move on command, leave their spouses and children for long periods of time, and face great danger on our behalf. Just as their children begin to find their place in a new home, make a new best friend, and join a local team, they may be asked to uproot themselves and begin again. We are so grateful for their courage, tenacity, and their heart. Thank you to Principal Wendy Wood, administrators, and all those who worked to put together such a powerful tribute across our district to celebrate our military children and their families. And then on Tuesday, April 14th, I joined staff and families for a parent information night called Social Media, AI, and Your Child, What Parents Need to Know. The goal of the evening was to provide parents with a better understanding of the digital world and how to protect their children from its darker sides. Clayton Cranford, a leading law enforcement educator for online safety known nationwide, provided a powerfully informative 90-minute presentation on how social media impacts your child's mental health, critical insights into how predators exploit social media, the apps and trends parents should know, practical and effective ways to keep your child safe in the digital world. Nearly every chair in the room was occupied by parents who came to learn about how to keep their children safe and healthy. No one left early. Mr. Cranford paired real-life stories with the latest research to educate and equip our parents with tools for internet safety. At the end of the presentation, Mr. Crawford was surrounded by parents wanting to share their personal stories and voice their concerns. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Evelyn Garcia, our Director of Wellness and Safety, and her team for creating such an important evening. It is my hope that there will be more opportunities to continue this conversation and work together to address the serious issues emerging from the impact of social media on our children. And lastly, I want to say I was at the Rotary meeting today, and we presented the Student of the Month, Interact Student of the Month, and it was a lovely young woman from Los Alamitos High School, a senior, Natalie Jenkins. She's part of the biomedical pathways, as well as our EMT program. Her teacher, Kelly Rafi, sang her praises. She's going to the University of Utah, admitted to an outstanding nursing program that only takes 60 students out of the entire United States per year. She's interested in either becoming a traumatic nurse practitioner or a trauma flight nurse. And I think she's an exceptional young lady, and we have so many exceptional students in our schools. The CTE and ROP programs create avenues for them to begin to think about their future. And I'm so deeply grateful, and she expressed her gratitude as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Davison. So I will go now. And so since Papa Forehand brought up the 3 minutes, I'll start with that. Last month, we take our governance very seriously, and we take our responsibilities as board members seriously, and how we work together. And so last month we had what we call a mid-year check-in, and that's an opportunity for the board to come together and say, how are we doing as a governance team, and how are we moving our mission and our vision forward in the district? And so one of the things that we discussed at that meeting was that we know meetings go long, and we want to make sure that we're communicating clearly, and the things that we're doing and showing the impact of that, but without doing a laundry list of the things and places that we've been, because I think that you see board members at all the events that you go to, because that's how seriously we take the job we do. And so sometimes you'll get all of us, sometimes you'll get one, sometimes you'll get two. So we're trying to make sure that we're highlighting all of those things, but also being really respectful of staff's time, of executive cabinet's time, of your time, and giving you the pertinent information within a very short time frame. And what we figured is, if we make everybody else go 3 minutes, why shouldn't our communication go 3 minutes? So I just wanted to let you know a little bit about that, and how important we take our governance. Also, I had the incredible opportunity to go to the Rossmore Family Night, and there were a lot of phenomenal things that were at that night. And one of the things I loved is that they're really using our ruler, which is a program that we put into effect about helping children be able to identify how they feel about things and where they are, and monitor their feelings. But one of the other things they had that I just adored was they had a farmer's market, and that was put on by Food Services. And it was local vendors that are supporting our students now with food, and so local freshly grown vegetables. These are, and then Mary's Chicken, which is a, pardon me? Out of Fresno, so poultry, and this is good food. And we have really, as a board, really been on Annie and her team that is just phenomenal, and they hear us. What can we do to give more nutritional based foods to our students? What can we do? And she's finding grants. Her team is doing just phenomenal work out there, and using small businesses to support that. And one of the things I'm going to ask is, I'm going to ask parents to help your children understand these foods they're getting are delicious. They need to love to eat them and be excited about eating them, so the Cocoa Pops can disappear and we can have really important nutritionally based food for our students. And I'm just really thankful of Food Services and Annie and all the amazing work that she's doing. And my last thing really isn't necessarily related to my board work, but I did want to highlight that we had a woman named Debbie Kent become the Citizen of the Year for Los Alamitos. And Debbie, Marlis knows Debbie. She was a teacher at McCullough for a number of years. She gives back to this community nonstop, and we are just really grateful that people like this have also come through our district. So that is it for our, okay, great, and I went the longest. I am timing everybody. We got to keep each other accountable, right? That's what we do. So that's how we learn and that's how we get better. And so now we will be moving on to our public comment. And I need to read this. We do have a card for public comment this evening. And the board welcomes input from the public. And this is the opportunity for members to provide public comment to the board on the agenda items or items not listed on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the board should complete a speaker request card prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and public comment is limited to a total of 30 minutes. Comment cards can be submitted to the district office anytime after 9 a.m. the day of the board meeting and will also be accepted up to the start of the board meeting at 6 p.m. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another, and when addressing the board, speakers are requested to address the board from the podium, state their name, and adhere to the time limits. The board may not take any action or discuss any item that does not appear on the posted agenda and cannot immediately respond to public comment. And that's a very hard thing for us to do. Speakers are cautioned that under California law, no person is immune from liability for making intentionally false or defamatory comments regarding any person simply because those comments are made in a public setting. So we do have one card, and Gianna Payne, I ask you to come to the podium.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Pulver, Ms. Reed, High School Administration, for hearing me today. I would like to thank you guys for giving the Color Guard 6th period Performing Arts credits for A through G. It's been really helpful in our recruitment this year as well as next year, and hopefully we will have a bunch of freshmen and 8th graders willing to join our program. Recently, I went to 8th grade middle school PE classes to teach color guard basics to the kids because color guard isn't really something you do because it's kind of unique. And we're really hopeful that a lot of them are going to join, and a few seemed pretty interested. I would also like to share that we got 2nd place at our championships this weekend, and it was really due to the new members that we had because they were able to get arts credits. So thank you.
And I think I can say this, that is a really spectacular jacket.
Well,
Dr.
and
Pulver?
I just want to remind, yes, you guys can't necessarily comment, but if you recall, she came to us last year and requesting that, not knowing, and thankfully Mrs. Reed had shared that was actually work we were also working on as well, but it's great to see that work that we're working on is really impacting positively for our students, and that I love that our students feel that they have a voice to be able to come and share with us as well. So we love compliments as well. So thank you. We're glad that it's working out, and congratulations on the weekend 2nd place. Good job.
Papa for him has.
I have to give a compliment because with this. Because my 8th grade grandson, I got a picture of him twirling a flag. It was the highlight of the whole family and the whole month. Whether he'll sign up or not, I don't know.
Thank you very much. So we are going to move on to our information and presentations, and Dr. Pulver.
Thank you, Madam President. Esteemed members, so tonight I'm really pleased to be able to call up Sulema Hogin, who is the Vice Chairperson of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Sulema is a member on the CBOC, been a very active parent in our district over numerous years, and we're just so grateful for your willingness to serve on the CBOC. She serves as a taxpayer representative on the committee, and tonight she will be presenting the annual report. It actually might be the last report.
It is. Yes,
I'll
it is.
turn it over to you. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pulver. And good evening, Madam President, esteemed members of the board, Dr. Pulver, Executive Cabinet, and our community partners in attendance. As Dr. Pulver mentioned, my name is Salema Hogin, and I'm here tonight presenting on behalf of Chairperson Purvi Trivedi, who could not be here tonight, and serving as the co-chairperson of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, also known as the CBOC. The CBOC was established as a requirement of Proposition 39, which mandates that any school district receiving voter approval of a general obligation bond must form a Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to oversee, monitor, and inform the public concerning the expenditure of bond proceeds. Following the passage of Measure G in November 2018, the district was required to establish the CBOC. Our committee consists of 7 members: Donna Artovic, Christina Cannon, Christina Coxhill, Eric Johnston, Ellison Mohana, Purvi Trivedi, and myself. Our responsibility is threefold. It's to inform the public concerning the district's expenditures of bond proceeds under Measure K and Measure G, to review expenditures reports and ensure bond proceeds are used only for the purposes set forth in Measures K and G, as mentioned, and not for salaries or operating expenses. To present to the board an annual written report on the district's compliance with the California Constitution and a summary of our proceedings for the preceding year. Tonight, I present the CBOC annual report for the fiscal year 2024-2025. And I am pleased to share, as Dr. Pulver mentioned earlier, that this is our final report. With all the bond proceeds expended and all the projects complete, our oversight responsibility has been fulfilled. This milestone reflects years of community trust and, most importantly, commitment to our students. Key accomplishments for the fiscal year being reported, which is a 24-25, is the new 3-court gymnasium and weight room at Los Alamitos High School, and the completion of remaining classroom renovations on the high school campus. At our committee meeting on February 25th, Edie Bailey, our independent auditing firm, presented the financial statement and performance audits for Measure K and G. The audit states both financial statement audits had no adjustments, and this firm issued an unmodified opinion on both Measure K and Measure G. There were no findings with respect to the financial statements. Edie Bailey responded fully to all questions of the committee. The 2025 final audit reports for both measures are available on the LOSEL website under our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee tab. For the fiscal year 24-25, our committee reviewed expenditures to ensure bond funds were used solely for their intended purposes. Interest revenue totaled $410,996 across both measures. Expenditures were $13,485 with 13 cents for Measure K and $14,279,516.53 for Measure G. The CBOC found all expenditures to be appropriate and in compliance with the requirements of Measure K and G. In fulfillment of our responsibility, the CBOC finds the Los Alamitos Unified School District to be in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, Section 1B3 of the California Constitution. The CBOC would like to thank Dr. Pulver, Elvia Schuner, Timothy Golden, and Shoshana Dornblazer for their support throughout our 5th term, and welcome Edwin Magana. Your coordination and responsiveness to our requests made it a pleasure to achieve our mission together. They invited us on tours and were always just very responsive in anything that we needed, so we greatly appreciate that support. We also extend our sincere gratitude to all our current and past committee members who gave their time to ensure accountability throughout this bond program. We equally recognize the Los Alamitos community whose continued trust and support made these improvements possible. The lasting impact of this work modern classrooms, state-of-the-art facilities, and enhanced learning environments will be felt by generations of students to come. Finally, we want to thank the current and previous members of the Board of Education for your governance and support in guiding meaningful enhancements to student learning environments. Your governance made this bond program a success. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pulver in just 1 minute, but I have to say that I'm a little teary because I was the first chair. And so it just is just such a culmination of work over 14 years. And I just really appreciate all the work that you've done and the oversight. And that's such an important part that when we went out to bonds, we let the community know that there would be an oversight committee to make sure that we were really being responsible for their money, with their money, and that was something that was really important to the district. Dr. Pulver.
Thank you. I wanted to share similar, but because it's the closeout report, I thought it might be important to just highlight the Measure K and Measure G projects, both to the public, because not everybody might be having the report. So it's on page 10 of the report. And as Sulema shared, it is the last report, and it actually saddens me a little bit because that means any other project we're doing is without bond dollars. And so that's why the PAC becomes such a more difficult task. But out of a $97 million bond that Measure G passed, and there was a little bit of leftover Measure K funds, I just wanted to read the completed project list because I think it's beyond impressive. It's certainly more than $97 million because of some of the state matching dollars that we secured for this community. The high school 3-court gymnasium and weight room, the high school multi-story STEM building, the high school classroom renovations, the high school aquatic center, LAE school new restrooms, Hopkinson Elementary School new restroom, Hopkinson Elementary playground and replacement at kindergarten and preschool, Lee Elementary School playground replacement, which was their second playground that they replaced, Lee Elementary School playground replacement for preschool and kindergarten, that was a third, Los LAE school playground for their primary and their secondary. So every elementary playground was done. Weaver Elementary, McGaw, Rossmore, and Weaver again, rather than repeating myself too much. Los Alamitos High School scoreboards were part of the Measure G projects. Los Alamitos High School infrastructure was some of the very early work with some of the leftover K funds, and then obviously construction and project management. So for a bond of $97 million and a little bit of leftover Measure K, that is a huge accomplishment. And hats off to everyone and this community for making these facilities possible for generations and future generations.
Thank you, Dr. Pulver. And thank you very much for coming and presenting. We really appreciate all the work from the committee. We are going to move on now to a public hearing. And I am going to a public hearing for a proposed increase in developer and school facilities fees. So I'm going to gavel in. Oh, sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure. Before we go into the public comment, just to explain to the public what this is, this item is part of a process required under state law for the district if they adjust developer fees for residential and commercial development. These fees help offset the impact of new housing and construction that they may have on our schools, specifically the additional students that may generate from these housing developments or even modernizations of your home. For any additional classroom or space or facilities. The state really does sets a maximum dollar amount, and they allow an update every 2 years, so they update that. So this is something we've done every 2 years. The proposed increase is based on a study that was prepared for the district, and later in the action item, the study and the resolution to increase the developer fees. But the current developer fees are $5.17 per square foot for residential and 84 cents for commercial. And the new rates, which would go into effect should the board approve it on the action item within 60 days after it's approved, so around June 20th, would go up 21 cents for residential. So the new rate would be $5.38, and the commercial rate would go up 3 cents to 87 cents per square foot. And so this is an opportunity before to allow the public to share any input that they have before the board takes action later on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. So I'm going to gavel in to the public hearing. Is there any public that would like to come forward and provide any input? Seeing none, I'm going to gavel out. I only have to gavel in and out once, right? I'm good. Okay, great. So thank you for that, and we will be looking at that item later in the agenda. The next item on our agenda is the presentation of LAHS Performing Arts Center project. Dr. Pulver.
Thank you, esteemed board members. So this really will be 2 parts to this presentation tonight. And it's really part 2. If you recall, in the fall, we made a change. We changed our architect. We were kind of going down a path of modernizing our Performing Arts Center with the limited dollars that we had secured at the time. And we made some changes with the architectural firm. And with that, West Group came to us and presented to us in the fall and presented a new option for us to consider. They asked if we wanted to give them about 3 months to really study the option of looking at building a new performing arts center, constructing a brand new building. And in this case, it would be right behind the current PAC, as opposed to modernizing the current PAC. And so we thought the direction we gave them was we think it was worthy of pausing until we can get a more informed decision, because they said that there could be some additional grant dollars for new construction that aren't available for the modernization. And so we're inviting West Group back tonight to give us an update on the 3 months that they've been using to study really this option. And we still know the option still exists for us to modernize the PAC if we don't go with the new construction. And so I'm going to call up Ken from West Group, Ken Ong from West Group, who's going to present. And in that, we did ask them to give us a financial estimate from their cost estimators. And then the second part I will present because our Ms. Elvia Schnur, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, is unable to be here tonight, as we've been really working to see if this is the wish that we want to move forward with, how would we be able to fund it and make this potentially a reality? And we're not fully there yet, but we are optimistic. So at this point, I'd like to call up Ken from West Group Designs, who have been great partners with us. And I'm so grateful that we were able to even have this option to consider, because it was one that we were not considering prior to the fall.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Pulver, Executive Cabinet, and members of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm joined this evening by our CEO, Parasima Hassani, and Senior Principal, Shahzad Gambari, both of whom have been integral to the project and are here to support tonight's presentation. Tonight, I'll be sharing a feasibility study update for the proposed new Performing Arts Center at Los Alamitos High School, a project I'm genuinely excited about, both for what it means for students and for what it could mean for the campus long term. I'll take you through the proposed design, which includes site strategy, floor plans, building sections, renderings, and a cost summary, and I will do my best to try to do that in under 10 minutes. Before we get into the design itself, I want to quickly share how we got here. The existing, and let me just scoot forward a couple of slides. The existing Performing Arts Center has served the campus for about 60 years. It has a lot of history, but it also has real limitations in terms of technical theater capability, space efficiency, and the overall patron and performer experience. The goal of the feasibility study has been to explore what a replacement facility could look like. To make sure we were designing for the right things, our team met with the existing user groups and conducted facility tours to hear directly from the staff and directors who use the PAC daily, and that input shaped the program in meaningful ways. The most significant adjustment that came out of those conversations was a 15% reduction in seating capacity from 590 seats of what's in the current PAC down to approximately 500. This wasn't just about cost. It was about right-sizing the house to improve the audience experience, and it allowed us to be more efficient with the auditorium form, which I'll speak to in a moment. The new building is sited, as Dr. Pulver mentioned, on approximately a little bit over an acre of open space directly to the north of the existing PAC. In our diagram here, it's identified as the phase 1 limit of work. This next slide shows the site plan, the proposed location of the new PAC, and how it relates to the existing one. One of the most important strategic advantages of this location is continuity. Because the new PAC is being built on open space rather than demolishing the existing building first, the existing PAC can continue to be fully used during construction. There's no gap in operations. Students and the community don't lose access to the performing arts facility during the construction period. Once the new building is complete and operational, the existing PAC would be demolished. That opens up approximately an acre and a half of open space right in the heart of the campus, which is what we're calling phase 2. You'll see some conceptual imagery in a couple of the upcoming renderings showing what the phase 2 area could eventually become: potential green space, additional covered lunch shelters, an outdoor amphitheater, potentially a future film and broadcast CTE building. But I want to be clear, those phase 2 elements are strictly conceptual at this stage and are not part of the scope or cost of what we're presenting tonight. Tonight's focus and tonight's cost estimate is entirely phase 1. Now let's take a look at the floor plans. This is the first floor level. One of the first priorities of the layout was improving program adjacency, making sure the right spaces are next to each other in a way that actually works for the users. The main lobby, which is located in the northeast corner of the plan, facing the rear parking lot. This placement does two things. It provides a clear, intuitive arrival point for patrons coming from the rear parking lot and gives the lobby direct connections to both the main auditorium and the black box theater. From one lobby, you can access both performance venues, which is a significant upgrade over the existing PAC configuration. The restrooms are accessed just outside the lobby via a covered walkway. That separation is intentional. It allows the restrooms to be used during the school day without requiring the entire building to be unlocked, a practical benefit for campus operations. Turning to the main auditorium, the shape of the house is 20% more efficient than the existing PAC. That efficiency means we can seat the same 500 patrons with better sight lines while actually using 1,200 square feet less space. Smaller footprint, better experience. Now, while we were more efficient with the seating, we were intentionally more generous with the technical theater components. The proposed stage is 40% larger than the existing stage. It's only a foot deeper, but more significantly, it's 24 feet wider, which finally creates functional wing spaces on both sides of the stage. That's a game changer for productions that need to fly scenery, store props, and move performers on and off stage. Adjacent to the main stage is a larger scene shop, a dedicated space for stagecraft that connects directly to both the main stage and the black box theater. That easy adjacency makes movement of set materials between spaces far more practical. The back of house is served by a continuous 8-foot wide corridor, wide enough to move set pieces, and it connects storage rooms, dressing rooms, and student restrooms. At the far west end of the plan, you have the band and instrumental music classrooms, which can be reached either from the exterior or through the interior corridor. That flexibility is important for the day-to-day rhythms of the school. Moving to the second level, the main lobby below in the corner reads as a double height space at this level, which gives the building a sense of arrival and more of a civic presence. There's an elevator that provides vertical access to this second level, which houses a variety of technical theater support spaces, control rooms, box boom lighting positions that are essential for professional quality productions. At the east side of this plan, in the light blue, there's an exterior terrace that serves as a patron egress point from the top of the auditorium seating, both a functional exit and a moment of outdoor connection. This next floor plan illustrates the proposed technical theater catwalk and follow spot lighting positions at the rear of the house. These are critical elements for the kind of productions this program aspires to mount, and having them clearly defined at this stage of the design reflects how seriously we're taking the technical performance requirements.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, back on.
Oops. Sorry, let me back up here.
You're giving it,
I'm going in the wrong direction.
I'm
Sorry
not
about the
looking, I
buttons.
swear.
There we go.
One more.
Yeah.
One more. So the box boom, I don't understand that.
The box boom are the kind of triangular spaces flanking the front of the proscenium on both the north and south sides. Basically, they are lighting positions behind the wall that allow for stage lighting to be coming from the sides or a little bit more of a three-quarter angle kind of in front of the stage. And so they're concealed locations that allow for a lighting technician to be located.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
Yep. This next slide shows a couple of building sections, and I want to spend a moment here because these sections represent some very deliberate decisions. Having worked on both the STEM building and the new gymnasium on the campus, we're acutely aware of the soil conditions at the high school. With that in mind, the proposed design is purposefully trying to minimize how far we go below grade, keeping excavation to a minimum to manage both cost and geotechnical risk. At the same time, we're very conscious of accessibility. We want to minimize the number of ramps and stairs for both patron and performer circulation. The top section really shows our solution most clearly. The ground floor, the stage, the music classrooms are all on the same level. The front rows of the auditorium seating step down from that level to create the stage offset, rather than the stage being elevated above grade. It's a structural and accessibility solution that keeps the building largely at grade while still achieving the proper technical theater relationships between audience and performer. With that, I'd like to transition to the 3D views. This first image is an aerial photograph of the existing campus from the east. I want to start here just to orient everyone before we look at the design renderings. You can see the existing PAC and get a sense of where the new building will sit to the north of it. This rendering introduces the new PAC in context and also gives you a very conceptual placeholder sense of what that phase 2 quad area could eventually become once the existing PAC is removed. The green space, the outdoor gathering areas, again, that's aspirational imagery for phase 2, not part of what we're costing tonight, but it helps illustrate the long-term potential for this part of the campus. This rendering gets us a bit closer to the building. Our architectural approach for the new PAC is very much in keeping with the design language we established with both the STEM building and the new gymnasium. The palette is a combination of brick, veneer, and stucco, materials that have a grounded, lasting quality. And we're continuing to incorporate the campus identity color blue in deliberate ways rather than as a generic accent. In this view, in particular, you can see how we're using blue to give the new PAC a distinct identity with what we're calling the Blue Box Theater on the north elevation. It's a moment of expression that says this is a place where creative work happens. To the right of that, a little bit tough to see on this rendering and the colors here, but that's the access to the scene shop, which features a large garage door that allows scenery and staging materials to be brought directly in and out, a functional feature that any technical theater director would appreciate.
Can I pause you for a second? Just
Sure.
say my favorite, if you go back, my favorite fun fact about the Griffin Center, which I saw in these pictures, just for the public to see, is that is to mimic a griffin's wing. Is that still we're going with that?
We are trying to emulate and abstract the idea of the griffin wing.
I tell everyone
in a
that,
lot
and
of
I'm happy to see it again because that's my favorite fun fact when we're on campus. So the griffin wing, I'm sticking to it. So I love that you did that again.
Thank you. This next view takes us around to the southeast corner, and it's a little bit washed out on the screen. Here you see basically the second floor terrace with what we're describing as a contemporary kind of Romeo and Juliet balcony and an exterior exit stair running along the south face, creating a dynamic geometry between the upper and lower portions of the building. Below the terrace are the new restrooms we discussed earlier in the floor plan. And finally, this last render view brings us to the main lobby entrance, the face of the building that patrons would experience on performance nights. What you're seeing here is how we're imagining a digital marquee on the brick elevator enclosure paired with banner graphics at the terrace. This is the kind of graphics and branding that builds community pride. It gives the PAC a public presence and an identity that is similar to how the new gym is in deploying technology and graphics to support the function of the building. My final slide is the cost estimate summary for phase one. The estimated hard construction cost for the new PAC is approximately $19.2 million. At this stage of design, we're carrying a 15% design contingency to account for the level of definition we currently have. When we add escalation to the projected midpoint of construction, which we're targeting for next October, along with other soft costs, the current total estimated project cost comes to approximately $27.8 million. I want to be candid about where we are in the process. This is a feasibility level estimate. There are elements of the design that we would look to refine and sharpen as we move forward, both in terms of program and in terms of specifications, with the goal of reducing costs while protecting what matters most. As part of that effort, we would be working collaboratively with the district's selected builder as a fully integrated team. The goal is to arrive at a design that delivers the technical theater improvements this program needs, enhances the character of the campus, and is at the same time being responsible stewards of your budget. We're committed to that balance. So this is a slide that we, and motto that we took from the athletics program when we were first doing the gym, which was believe, prepare, and execute. That is still a driving force of how we go about doing what we do, and it's your vision that determines how we move forward. And we believe that this project represents a meaningful investment in the students, educators, and community who use and love performing arts at Los Alamitos High School. We're proud of the work the design team has done so far, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with the board and the district. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll provide a little context. So if you can, Kenny, can you bring it back to the PAC design floor plan? So I just want to share that they've been great partners to work with, but we've really been leaning on our performing arts teachers, whether they be dance, music, band, show choir, drama, et cetera. And so they've come out and done field trips with us to take a look back to the floor plan.
The floor plan, yeah.
And so as we were, remember at one point we were considering whether these seating should be fixed seating or whether retractable. We thought maybe retractable seating might be less expensive. And so in consultation with our teachers and performing art groups, they were willing to have the retractable seating if it meant some of the other projects. As West Group shared with us with Executive Cabinet a couple of weeks ago when they presented to us right before spring break, actually the fixed seating price is going to be the same. So that's why you're only seeing that. But in that, when we went back to our user groups as well, even though this is less seats, it's almost close to the same number of actual visible seats. If you recall, there's probably 40 or more seats behind the first two rows on both sections that really don't have sight lines of the stage. And so when we talked with our user groups, we asked, well, what is the absolute smallest if we're trying to get a new PAC? And they said 500 seats. And so West Group delivered with 500, a design with 502, because it was really more important to our user groups was a much bigger stage, the wing space that you heard Ken talking about, and maintaining a similar size of our current band rooms and black box, at least maintaining what we have. And then these additional ancillary spaces of right now, our CTE theater tech, when they're building sets, it's outside kind of like in a shed. And so part of the reason having some of this space too is we hope to be able to apply for a grant that I'll talk about later about career technical education for our theater tech class. And so this really does marry the feedback that we receive directly from our user groups. So I just wanted to kind of give that shout out, an explanation a little bit more. Why would you go for less seating and yet we have a bigger footprint?
I have a question about where the restrooms are, that they're outside, but though that we're in California, so that's not really a big problem, but it is covered, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So in this plan, it's kind of colored in green there and facing a line of columns and kind of a dashed line that represents what would be the terrace above. And so it stacks.
Yeah.
It's located basically directly underneath the second level control room and theater spaces that are in the back of house.
Great, thank you.
Question though, and maybe I was misunderstanding this, because I understand there's the exterior entrance which would be able to be used during the school day. But if I was watching a show and had to go to the restroom in the middle, do I have to leave the physical space to go? Or is there entrances from inside too?
No, there is no connection to the restrooms from the interior of the PAC, so you would be stepping out of the auditorium or the lobby to make use of the restrooms that are under the covered walkway. So we approached that a little bit differently than how it was configured at the new gymnasium, where we kind of had a double-sided entrance that wound up taking up more space and square footage than this configuration.
And that has created some different challenges as well of when we don't want people entering the gym, but they're using the restrooms on the outside for, let's say, some of the field sports, et cetera. So
I think I asked that question and knowing that that's been an issue, understanding that it's just a complicating factor, right? Because you have to deal with ticketing, or if someone comes in and goes out, someone keeping the door secured or not secured during a show, and that's cross that bridge if and when we get there. It's a good problem.
there are restrooms for the performers, as you see in the yellow spaces there.
Are there any other questions about the design or anything before we go to the second part? All right, thank you very much. Really beautiful, and we just really appreciate the partnership that we have had, and you've really transformed our campus. So Dr. Pulver.
Well, not only have they transformed the campus, one of the things that I've said about West Group when we first came on, when they first started with the STEM building, is they expanded our vision. We never thought of even the STEM building, if you recall, for those of you who are on the board, that it would be in the front of the campus. It was going to be back where those 800 portables are. And so really expanding our vision of what's possible. They've done that again. This was not something that we were thinking of, and trying to really be partners with us to find funding opportunities that could help make this vision become more of a reality than possible. So I think, God works in mysterious ways, I often say. And so as we switched, I'm really pleased that this kind of, maybe it was a blessing by making that switch. And so tonight I want to talk about how we could, if we were to make this a possibility, what are still some of the roadblocks, and yet what is some of the momentum that we've been able to make. And you may recall, I believe it was 2 years ago at the State of the District, I think we had shared initially that we had $5 million budgeted to modernize the PAC. And we weren't sure how much that was going to do, but we said, okay, great, we have $5 million. And then which is going to be another recommendation that we'll look into a little bit later, when the state gave us one-time dollars, they framed it as the arts and music block grant, but it was really a discretionary grant that could have been used for anything, but it was one-time dollars. For us, it was $5 million. At that time, 2 years ago or so, we decided we were going to put all of that, because we had so little to be able to invest into the PAC, we were going to put the $5 million of that one-time block grant to the PAC. And so I believe last year at the State of the District, I think I'd shared, we now have $12 million to be able to do a PAC project. So it's been really interesting and exciting to see that grow. And so as we're faced, remember, as we heard, these are preliminary costs, but they've really done a great job of trying to use an outside company who really, this is their specialty, to give us a hard construction cost. But I want to remind you, construction cost is both hard and soft. And so we can't get stuck in the trap. So it's $27.8 million of hard construction costs. But in that construction cost, and we've been told this, that would include all of the seating, the audio visual, the lighting, the acoustics, the mics, and all of that equipment that would be needed to have the PAC, because that was a question that Cabinet had early on. And so I wanted to clarify that in case that was a question of the board. But it's all the soft costs, the design fees, the DSA fees, construction management. As you know, we have to have inspectors ongoing, et cetera. And so that is typically in some districts, it's 30%. I think right now we tried to soften it. Our soft costs have been between about 15 and 20%. I think this right now from a budgetary standpoint is either 20 or 25%. And so that's $5.5 million. And so the overall, which is I think the way that we have to think about funding, is both the hard and the soft costs. So this project really would be $33.3 million. Remind you, we don't have an actual estimate from a builder. And so that does not include $2 million. It would, a rough estimate we had heard earlier, kind of, thrown against the wind, is that it would be about $1.5 to $2 million to demolish the existing PAC. Because in order for us, one of the ways that West Group brought this project forward to us is that we might be able to qualify for seismic mitigation grant dollars, just like we did with the front of the school. And that would be about $5 million. But a condition of that is you have to tear down the building, because what you're saying is it's not earthquake safe, and so that the state is investing in you to remove that from a safety hazard per se. And the PAC is not just the auditorium from the state; it's also the band rooms and the black box. And so we'd have to destroy all of that. So we're looking at an overall project which including the demolition of having to come up with about $35.5 million. Well, last fall when we presented this, Elvia shared we had $14 million in our Performing Arts Center allocation. So we've continued, as I remember, I said we went to 5, then we went to 8, then we went to 12, and then to 14. And I can say just since the fall, any new dollars or matching dollars or areas where we've saved money that have been facility dollars, we have tried to prioritize to make this PAC option possible. And so just from last fall to now, it's now 15. We've been able to add another $1 million to this project. So I'm really pleased to be able to share that. As West Group came to us and said, we believe, and part of this feasibility study was to see, would we really qualify for about $5.3 million of seismic mitigation funds? And their team really spent time over the last 3 months, and they're confident that with all the information that they have, that we would qualify for that. As you recall, we did qualify and receive the money for the STEM building as well. And then we already wrote a grant, CTE grant for technical theater, but that was when we were going to be modernizing the PAC, and that was $1.5 million. So if you do new construction, it actually doubles to $3 million. And so we would re-engage, even though we got approved for it, we'd pause on that and apply again for a $3 million new construction for technical theater. And then we're in the midst of applying for the sports medicine back to the gymnasium. But once you receive facility dollars, you can apply those facility dollars to any new project, because the gymnasium and the weight room has already been, the project has been built. So in that, now if you take the dollars that we have along with the potential grants that we think that we could get, it now yields us $26.3 million. So we're not there yet. And so you can see we have about a $9 million shortfall. So that seems daunting in some ways. And so I want to talk about what are some ways we can get ourselves closer to making this a reality for this community for generations to come. And so some of the other projects that we did have planned was we were talking about, and this has been probably more recently within the last 2 years, that we definitely have, after modernization and a part of our fields were used for landing spaces for construction, there's a huge amount of green space on the high school campus that should be practice fields and field space that are really just uninhabitable. They're not even safe. And so we took a look at, and we think we had allocated, potentially reserving them within budget dollars that we have for facilities, $2.5 million to either put in 2 practice turf fields or to really rehab that entire green space, whichever was most, we believe that the turf fields would be the best long-term investment on that. And so we could pause on doing that if we wanted to be able to make the PAC possible. We've also been talking about, we've modernized all the other kitchen spaces on our 8 other campuses through part of Measure K and other dollars. And so our kitchen at the high school, we had reserved about $1.5 million of facility dollars to modernize the high school kitchen, plus the food services budget was going to use some of their dollars, about $1 million or so, to pay for equipment and things of that sort. Because prior to just this past week, that we've been hearing that the state does not allow us to use, because the food services has a surplus and they have over $3 million that could be used for this project, but that we couldn't use it to do infrastructure, tearing down walls, electrical, et cetera. It could only do equipment. Good news to share is that some of the new regulations that were just presented at a food service presentation last week is that they are allowing districts to be able to use food service dollars in their reserves, et cetera, to be able to renovate kitchens, including the infrastructure. So we believe we could easily still keep the kitchen renovation project moving forward using all the food service dollars that can only be spent on food services. So in some ways, while it's pausing that project, it really isn't. We're able to shift dollars in a different way. And then with the high school restroom renovations, as you know, we already do have our quote, and we're already in the process of, and we had reserved a little over $4 million for the restroom renovation project at Los Alamitos High School. It came in under that. And so we'll have about $1 million in savings there. And so if we were to reallocate all of those funds, that brings in $5 million. And one of the things that I want to remind you all is we heard in the governor's January budget that next year, the one-time dollars coming to districts could be even larger than this year. This year, I think the one-time dollars, and remember, one-time dollars should only be spent on one-time expenses. 3 years ago, when the one-time dollars for the arts block discretionary, we moved $5 million and applied it all there. So we're told at the January budget, at least, that it could be $4 to $5 million for Los Alamitos Unified specifically. And so we do think, while we say that we could pause the sports field renovation, we certainly could. And our recommendation would be to, if we set aside this 2.5 to the PAC, that we would use 2.5 to 3 million of the one-time dollars that we get next year to continue moving forward, because that's really its critical space as well for our athletes and for our students. And it's a direct benefit that our students and our staff and our community will benefit from these one-time dollars. So I think while there's some trade-offs, we also have some other solutions to make both possible. And so that initial $9 million gap, if we were to reallocate the $5 million as I outlined above, so now that leaves a gap of $4 million. So we're not still there yet, but usually our budgets are higher than what we really have come in. And that's why we've been able to add more money to different projects along the way, is because we had a higher budget, and as project savings came in, we reallocated them. And so we think we're actually much closer than we think. And so what are some ways that we could potentially mitigate that $4 million? Well, again, the board could consider, let's say we get $5 million of one-time dollars next year. If we wanted to be able to allocate some of those one-time dollars towards this, we could add more of that in addition to the fields. We could also potentially take a look at doing some project scope adjustments. And so reducing the overall footprint. The blue box theater is a little bit larger than the current black box. So there are some ways that perhaps if we needed to reduce square footage in terms of construction costs, the instrumental and the band rooms and the current design are a little bit larger than current. If we needed to shrink the lobby a little bit more to reduce square footage, et cetera. So there are some ways that we could reduce overall. We would continue to look at simplifying design elements and finishes, take a look at value engineering other aspects as well along the way. As we bring in a contractor, we believe once we decide our builder, and we've now narrowed it down to, I think it's 4 or is it 5 contractor, 4. And so we will now be moving forward with selecting that contractor so that we can have the contractor work directly with West Group, because sometimes they'll say, actually, if you do this and it achieves the same result, this is going to get you a better price. And then built into that as well is a design contingency of $2.8 million. And we don't, it's always smart to still be able to budget, but we actually don't believe that that's needed. We think that design contingency can get much smaller, particularly if we can really make sure that we don't change certain aspects of the design as we move forward. And so we think we are actually much closer than what it sounds like. And so that $9 million shortfall, getting down to 4, if we can continue to work on some of these other enhancements, I think our recommendation is we think it's too close to not explore, that we're so close to be able to touching it to make it happen. I also would throw out, if there's any community out there that wants to donate a lot of money and wants to have, the Griffin Performing Arts Center sponsored by blah, 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 the Hilton or Crypto or the Honda Center, we would certainly welcome some naming rights for X number of years. We've also talked about within our community, and I don't think it would really move the needle a ton, but we've seen other places that they have, invited the community if they wanted to purchase the chair in the Performing Arts Center, et cetera, and having people, they can have their name plaque on it, doing some other on the side. And, that could maybe raise $500,000 to $1 million, who knows, depending if you sold, 500 seats at $2,000 or what, I don't know what we'd have to do there. So maybe 500, maybe 1,000 or so. So we just think the board really I think I want to narrow down what we believe are kind of 3 options for us to do. Do we move forward with constructing a new PAC, giving West Group to keep working on this design, because now we'd want them to be able to refine those refinements and then getting things closer to be able to give to a contractor who can then help us further delineate where we can save prices. Of course, the option to still modernize the existing PAC is there, $14 million without all of those other grant grant dollars is still will do a dent, but we won't be able to do a lot to it. And I think that's why our performing arts teachers were so interested in trying to find a way to make it possible. Should we reallocate the funds from the identified projects that we just mentioned? I think is also an area that we would need to get support from the board. Obviously, in my mind, if you're saying yes, move forward with constructing, continuing moving forward at least, that we'd have to reallocate those funds. And then, of course, the other option out there is proceed with the new PAC project, pending formal bids from a guaranteed maximum price. That's the GMP when we do a lease back from a selected contractor. And if we had to, once we get that GMP and we realize, wow, this is now a $40 million project, and now this $4 million shortfall is a $9 million shortfall, even after we've reallocated, then we'd have to go back to the drawing board. But that approach would require two different things. We'd be spending double work, double fees in architecture fees, because they would be doing all the architectural fees for the new PAC. And then if it doesn't work out, now we'd have to have them do the architectural fees to modernize the PAC. So there would be some duplicate design work, some construction cost escalation, and then we would have to use interim facilities. And so the beautiful thing here, we think we save probably $200,000 to $300,000-ish. We're not really exactly sure. It could be a little bit less. Maybe $150,000 to $200,000 of interim facility space. If the PAC was being performed, we'd have to go see what facilities are available to rent for us to still host, 3 show choir performances throughout the year, our drama, et cetera. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to the board for questions and further dialogue.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulver. Let's start with any questions that we have, clarifying questions, and then we'll move on to decisions. So, Mrs. Davidson?
So I understand about diverting the money or pausing the allocations for certain projects. But you talked about the possible one-time funds next year. Did we have plans, like, what would we be giving up if we used those one-time funds for this? I mean, did we have any projections of projects we wanted to use that for?
No, not yet. So this year, one of the things we really talked with our bargaining groups was trying to see if we needed to use any of the one-time dollars to help with some of, if we couldn't do ongoing salary, to do maybe some one-time. That doesn't seem to be an interest, at least at the bargaining table. So we were intentional of not spending the one-time dollars this year initially till we waited to really explore and have more conversations with our bargaining units. But remember, 2 or 3 years ago, we put all of the one-time dollars, that was $5 million, to really make something possible for the PAC. And so we think that is an excellent use of one-time dollars, meets immediate needs for our students and for this community. And I want to remind the board, often when we went out for the bond, we often heard from community members who said, why do you, we're happy to support you, but how much of skin in the game are you going to put of money that you receive, and in this case, this is one-time dollars, that you receive to also, and not put everything on the backs of taxpayers. And so this could be another gesture that the board shows of, it's really a marriage of a lot of different funds to make this possible and create an incredible space. And I think the reason we also recommend this is what it could do to the high school if you remove the old PAC. You now have a truly quad area that for campus culture, student life, et cetera, that just opens so many more possibilities as well. And if you think about it, we'd be able to really think about some big things that we've been able to do in the 4As for our students. And every single one of our students lands at Los Alamitos High School. So every student in this district would benefit from these investments.
Mr. Bragman?
You actually just talked about one of the areas that is causing my mind to hurt is that phase 2 from the quad to where the PAC is currently, without accounting for how much it's going to cost to rehab that. If we tear down the PAC, we have a big empty area. So do we have any estimate on how much it's going to cost to fill that area? Even if we're just putting grass in, we know how much turf costs in the back of the fields. Like we're talking about $2.5 million. It's a pretty large area that we'd have to figure out something to do. So any estimate from West Group on what it could even cost to just turf it over, like grass? In general, I mean, they're going to be excavating dirt. So
honestly, you concede if we're really, if we are that, you concede and rope it off if we had to do something that generically, if we had to. And so
I obviously don't want to just turf it.
We don't
More just
either,
thinking about the cost.
But I think it's also, that also is something that could be, we're going to do that in 2 years. As you've been seeing the budget, the state unfortunately keeps applying new money to one-time, or not new, keeps applying one-time dollars instead of doing some of the ongoing costs. Obviously they do both, but they're undervaluing their revenue so that they don't have to give us the full ongoing dollars. So what the positive benefit is, we've been getting one-time dollars for the last several years. I believe we can continue to get one-time dollars, that those could be another thing to use in the out years. We just don't have, we do right now from the governor's January budget, we know of at least potentially $5 or more million that could be coming to us.
Yeah, I would fear that we're building like the crown jewel on campus and then we have this empty space for a year or two, and I wouldn't want that to be there.
I personally think, even if that is the case, that is a short-term vision versus the long-term of being able to make something like this possible. We may have to be okay with an eyesore for a little bit. I'm hoping we don't. I'm hoping that the demo of $2 million is not that, and there'd be enough, like let's say $250,000, $500,000 to be able to invest in. But I also don't know that for sure yet. But I think that we should be mindful that that's possible, and is it still worth the big picture?
Mrs. Partizani, did you have questions?
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to make sure everyone could hear me. So yes, I think the design is beautiful. I think the plan that we have for future Griffins, and I can picture my kids walking on campus, just gives me goosebumps to be able to go and see all of our talented Griffins be able to perform in such a beautiful area. But I say but because, I sit here as a trustee, and one of my biggest roles is to be fiduciary responsible. So when I look at this project, what started out was a $15 million renovation. And what I'm seeing now is a $35 million redesign. And, or I guess I would say, new PAC. So, and a lot of the funding that we're talking about it's a potential. So for me, as I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around it, I'm thinking, I was just taking kind of some notes that even though if we were to pause some projects, thank you for going back to that. So even if we pause some projects that we had already planned and we said were important, like the fields, like the kitchen renovation, and moved some funding around, at the end of it, we have a potential for the CTEFP of $3 million. We have a potential of the CTEP at another $3 million, so that's $6 million. And then I think you were hoping that for the budget that we would have some one-time funds allocated to us. Even all of that combined together leaves us with a deficit of $4 million. And it's giving me, as excited as I am on the one hand to want to see this happen and want to support it wholeheartedly, it's giving me pause because I'm having a hard time trusting that all of these potential funds would come in.
So just to speak to part of that, because I think that is going to be the reality. So I think you hit a very sharp point that all of you will have to entertain. We received the seismic mitigation for the STEM building, and so even that portion was its potential, and we were very successful. In fact, I think at the time we thought it was going to be $3 million is what they shared, and I think it was 4.3 or 4 point something that we actually ended up receiving. So we actually received more than when West Group came to us and said, we think you would qualify for $3 million. So is that possible? Yes, but the reverse could also as well. We already received one of the CTE grants, but it was for modernization. And so we are and we haven't seen the state, as you know, is really investing heavily in career technical education. And so just about any grant that really meets these scripted out requirements seems to be qualifying and meeting those dollars. So we're cautiously optimistic about the $6 million and the 2 CTE grants as well. But yes, there's no sure thing.
Mr. Forham?
but I want to go for it. That's how I feel. I want to try it. I have great faith in this. Our budget people will find a way to do it. I think it's a win-win, like I said last October.
Thank you, Mr. Forham. So, of course.
So when we did the new gym, we didn't know if we were going to do the weight room. And so we wanted to leave a footprint there so that potentially we could build it in the future. Are there opportunities for that? I mean, we ended up getting it. It happened. And I agree with Chris. I feel very optimistic. And what I can't quite imagine is now doing it halfway and having this repaired PAC with a big investment already poured into that. If there's any conceivable way we can create the new one. Are there any parts of it that along the way we wouldn't have to pay the redesign cost, but we could say, we're moving along, but we're not going to do the weight room yet, or we might do it, but leave the footprint?
I'll ask West Group to come join me to be able to answer some of those questions. Where I think that the problem with this is because 5.3, maybe more, of the seismic mitigation requires us to destroy the other building, and yet we have to do the same thing. And so that building is not only the PAC, it's the band rooms, et cetera. So maybe off the top of my head, it's that storage room or the the design room, like I think what we were calling it, maybe. We've really been talking, we would also like to apply for a grant for CTE for film, and that would be phase 2, that they've left space to be able to add on, but that would be, again, $3 million, but that $3 million would pretty much just pay for that classroom, so we didn't even want to talk about it here in that sense, but to me, that would be, but any other, Ken? Yeah, so I mean, it's really just those outside places, but that's why I think it's very powerful to have West Group here, hearing what our concerns are and how close that I think we are, because I do think there are things we could go back to reduce the scope and things of that sort to get us closer to making this a viable option and still meeting the needs for our artists and students.
Are there?
Just one other thing you said about the band and the music rooms. Are those the rooms that we just renovated and we just invested in all the soundproofing and the walls and the cabinetry? Are we able to save any of those?
Those are those rooms. And because you remember at that time, the decision was to modernize the PAC. This kind of vision wasn't even part of our vision. And already arts were feeling like they weren't getting the full spectrum of support through facilities as athletics has. Because when Measure G first got passed, we knew initially we were hoping for $150 million. We surveyed the community. They would not support anything over 100. So at that time, they were actually, the facility master plan had a $55 or a $50 million performing arts center. So that's why it seems daunting. But some of the things we can take with us, if they're going to, we would still want to make sure it makes sense. So I don't want to, but the soundproofing, if the soundproofing would still fit within, those are on the wall. You can take them off and put them up. Some of the, because we didn't do a ton. We didn't go through DSA on most of that. That was all just kind of cosmetic. It was also the storage. Well, all of those lockers could be removed and placed in the new one if we needed, as long as they met the same footprint. But they already did meet it. So we do think that there's a possibility to be able to use some of those dollars in the new building.
So I just want to make sure everybody else has commented, and then I'll call for direction before I voice my thoughts. So as I said earlier, I passed the first Measure G. I was the chairperson, and then on the CBOC. I've seen every project that we've done at every school, whether it was on the board or part of the CBOC. This district and its leadership has done nothing but been the most fiscally responsible to be able to find ways to do things. The bond dollars that we went out with and the things that we have done, we never even put in the bond request because we didn't think we'd have enough dollars to do that. And as we did things, and as we and staff was so amazing at controlling that money and also finding every opportunity for matching funds, every opportunity to maximize. I remember when CJ was here and the front of the STEM building, how he found a way to be able to engineer, what was that called? Where we
Value engineering.
Value engineering things. So I have complete confidence that if and what I'm going to ask West Group, if these numbers are accurate, and I love that you already built in a 10%. We're looking at a 10% increase just in starting in October. So I'm thinking, okay, I know prices have gone up, but I'm not sure they can go up another 10% in 4 months. Do we feel confident that this is that we're going to get bids back that we are going to be able to move on these numbers? Because I just know this district and this leadership well enough to believe that, Dr. Pulver, if you think we can do it and we're close, I've seen us do it so many times that I have a lot of trust in you for that.
I think Dr. Pulver's cautiously optimistic assessment is right on target. We are close enough on both the scope and design at this particular phase that I'm confident that as we work forward in the next phase with additional engineering and coordination with whatever builder the district selects, that we can meet the target. So I'm really bullish on the idea that we can deliver a new PAC that meets both the programmatic needs and the targeted budget as outlined by Dr. Pulver.
Mr. Bragman, did you have something to add?
I don't know if it's something to add. I mean, I think for me, I mean, because I know people are kind of just going through the motions of kind of sharing a little bit. I also will support the construction of the new PAC. I do think, though, we need to really be aware of the needs that are aligned with the things we're pulling money from. So things like the athletic fields, I mean, I think, as you said, they're unsafe, right? Like we have to figure out a way to rehab them as quick as we can. So identifying funding for that kind of thing, the kitchen, these are just things that we have to find a way to make sure to do. We already know there's a strain on our athletic facilities. We know that the grass out there is unsafe. We know that the kitchen. So I'm all in on trying to make the PAC thing happen. I think the one-time funds, and if there are other creative ways, I mean, it's like you said, you and I have talked outside of this. If there are creative ways to ask the community to help out with funding the turf field and doing other things, like let's go all in on that. And so community members also fearing that too. You want to have great athletic facilities and want to donate to new turf fields. Like we'll take whatever we can, because I think these are all priorities for us.
Well, West Group brought to us that Pedro Pascual graduated from Los Alamitos High School. Now, I don't have any connection to him, but maybe, you know, they said Dr. Dre sponsored the Performing Arts Center in Compton.
Yep.
So, Pedro, if you're listening,
Matthew Morris, come back and show off your glee. But whatever it is, or Morrison, whatever his name is, we just need people to donate. But I will say, as people are saying, I'm in favor of moving forward. I think we can find a way. I just want to really put top of mind these other things have to be priorities as well.
And that's why I do want to say, like, even though we said why we think, because we also agree that the fields, something has to be, they're not inhabitable and we need space. And so we really don't look at it as a compromise, because we believe we're going to be getting, you know, north of $4 to $5 million of one-time dollars that could make that still have us move forward. Now, what other needs do we have of one-time dollars? Well, in the past, technology needs. We already put $500,000 in our tech budget every year. We've safety, security, we've security cameras, things of that sort. So there's always going to be, we'll have no problem finding a way to spend one-time dollars, don't get me wrong. But I think but can some of these things wait a year or two when more one-time dollars come, so that we move forward? Because the further we delay, the construction escalation cost just grows as well. And so Elvia and her team is already also looking, are there any slight little overlaps in the Melrose payments, because we have to pay the COPs every year, but maybe through some of that there might be 500,000 or 600,000 that will still guarantee we can pay the COPs each year, but still have some left over that we can apply. So we're looking for all kinds of ways to squeeze, 100,000 here, 500,000 here, et cetera, because we're really diligent to be able to try to make this possible for this community.
And you brought up another good point, is that we do know that the Lamson project is going forward. It does not seem to be stopping. And that would, we would also be recipient of developer fees as that project goes forward as well. And so there are things that we are not adding in, because they are, like, to your point, Mrs. Partisani, they are a potential. They're going to happen there. I feel that I know staff well enough to know that when you put down that as a potential, that's more than a potential. I mean, you said the $3 million for the career tech, for the theater tech, we already have approval for 1.5. So it's just saying now we're going to build new. We're not going to remodel.
To be clear, it will have to be a new application, because and now wouldn't be modernizing. We would be doing new. But if they've already said yes to us that we meet all the requirements, we would be able to. We're very successful in getting that approved as well.
So, Mr. Bragman, you said to move forward. Mr. Forham, Mrs. Davidson, forward. Mrs. Partisani?
I like to just add to what I was just talking about earlier. So I do think that, it's not a matter of trust. I trust you.
Of course, I don't take it that way.
I trust the staff. I love the creativity where we can pull, different funding. I think it really comes down to, like, the hard dollars and looking at the projected financial plan that I'm looking at in front of me of a project that started as a modernization and became a new build. There was, again, kind of going back and really looking at hard numbers, $15 million became a $35 million project. And we can be very creative to try to find that delta of about $20 million. And I see everything that you're saying, and I'm really hopeful, because, again, I would love to see that on our campus. It's just, when Mr. Bragman right now said, but, field renovations and the kitchen renovation is really important. So I really want to make sure we also do that. Well, that's the $4 million that we were thinking of reallocating. So if we're going to keep that as one of our priorities, that really, I just feel like the remaining funding gap, the math is a hard one to swallow. So I, in terms of giving you direction, I feel like I would like to have more final and actual dollars in front of us that are not just potential that we're hoping. I would like to see that some of those things that we are going to submit and that we assume that we're going to have comes our way before I can say, that yes, let's go for it. So I guess at this point, one of the options that you provided me, I don't know if my vote really fits in. I think it would be more about, like, get more information, make sure we really understand how much of a gap it exists before we can kind of green light a project in an environment where, enrollment is down, state funding is not something that we can really guarantee. We don't know how much we're getting. We know that we are sort of in this tug of war of tightening our belts, but yet wanting to make sure that we modernize our facilities. And I feel like, again, kind of going back as a trustee, one of my main responsibilities is to be fiduciary responsible. I just want to make sure I have all the information, given that I was just received this last night and we're just reviewing it today.
So a few things I just want to be able to respond to. So when we first talked about the PAC, I know, because we've said, well, it started off as 4 million, 5 million, 8 million, 12. That was just whatever leftover dollars we had from all of our other projects. We never said that was the amount sufficient to modernize or modernize that facility. It was just the way that the projects got laid out is, well, here's the leftover dollars. So what can we do with $2 million? What can we do with $4 million, et cetera? And I think so our of the 4As, our arts group have really felt as though that they've been kind of like the back seat to a lot of the other aspects. So I share that because I think sometimes I think, well, we thought we could do this. We really never thought it was possible to do anything for $5 million, but that's all we had. And we knew we had to do something. And so we've been working really diligently to make that possible. Unfortunately, the other part of your question, I want to make it very clear. We're not saying not doing the kitchen renovation. What we're now saying is we just got guidance from the state is that we will be able to use the kitchen fund dollars to be able to do that project. So now the facility dollars that we were reserving for the LAHS kitchen of 1.5 will just be able to be spent fully by the kitchen dollars. So that project will continue to move forward. In fact, West Group will probably help us with that as well as we continue to explore that. The field renovation, we believe to use some of the one-time dollars. What you won't have, and that's going to be your conundrum as the board, is we won't have this information. This is a hope and a prayer, and a true experience from what we've done in the past. Because the seismic mitigation dollars, we won't find out until when we did the STEM building and we said it was $3 million. You can't even file for it, if I understand, until it's built, until it's destroyed. And so that could be 4 years from now. So I won't be able to give you that information that this board needs to be able to count on the 5.3. But we have a great track record of where we knew that was this project, and we were told 3 million, and we ended up getting 4 point something. So we actually grew from that. Mm-hmm. For the CTE, we will be applying. We have to reallocate and apply for the CTE, the sports medicine. I believe we will be turning that in June 30th of this year. The technical theater won't be until it's a two-part process, so one part's due in December and then the following years. But really, in reality, it won't be officially all the way through its phase until June of next year. So you won't have that information to help you. I want to remind you, though, we did receive other CTE dollars when we've applied for the grant, and we've gotten it. So far, every CTE construction grant we've applied for, we received, except the sports medicine on the STEM building, because we really didn't have a great dedicated space for it. The gymnasium and the weight room certainly seems to be that. So I won't be able to give you that information until 3 years from now, unfortunately.
So just to kind of put a button on it, so just so if your question is, am I for getting a new PAC and working through all the different funding avenues that we have to try to make it happen? Yes, by all means. But seeing those funding, I feel like it's almost like I think you just said, to quote you, a hope and a prayer. And the answer can be yes, but then of course, the dollars need to follow in order for us to be able to fulfill our duties to the vendor that's sitting right there.
Yeah, and I should probably have said it a little bit better than a hope and a prayer, because we have some really good, strong experience that has given us solid, and people who have done this before that have given us really solid recommendations and a great track record where we've been successful. But of course, I think no matter what has to be, when all this is said and done, we will still always have to leave that little second inlet of when we get to GMP and it's just too cost prohibitive, it was much bigger than what we thought, et cetera, that we would have to come back to. But I would want you all to know now that if we do that, that means we are, and it's just going to be the cost of doing business, you would pay an architect twice to design a PAC that we couldn't build, and then design a modernization of our current PAC. I don't think that will happen. I'm extremely confident that we can make this happen. Again, as I shared, even the 2.8 in design contingency, I don't think will be needed to that extent. So we're very optimistic with some of the areas that we have, and using one-time dollars that come in over the next year or two to make this possible.
Mrs. Davidson, so I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and I know you want to say something, Mrs. Davidson, but Mrs. Partizani, are you saying that we can give direction to in your opinion, for your vote, to Dr. Pulver to move forward with looking at the construction of this new PAC and continue farther down the road?
It sounds like that's the path, regardless of which of these options we choose. That's the path we're going. We're going forward to see if what type of funding we're going to be able to gather to be able to fulfill either a new PAC or an existing PAC. The work and the looking into the different funding is going to happen regardless.
Well, your other option is to stop. We said we were going to spend 3 months to study this, and we can't do it. Or it's too many unknowns. And so we should just take the 14 million that we have allocated and not duplicate dollars and just tell West Group to modernize the current PAC. That's not our recommendation, but that is another option that the board could do. If you don't do that, then you still have that option. It just means that we have our eyes wide open that we could be spending other dollars down the road to architect fees, et cetera.
So I still am not clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, move forward and to explore and see if you get the funding for a new PAC. I think if the answer becomes
we're not going to know. I think this is where the disconnect is for me, understanding your direction. Yes. We're not going to know where the funding is. We're going to move forward with looking at a new PAC. If that comes back after and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but after we get really cost estimates from a contractor and we say, we've been working the last 6 months, we're not thinking maybe they've taken away the seismic mitigation dollars, or we got rejected for this, or something like that happens, then at that point, that's when we would not move forward. What we are saying right now is, and what I believe Dr. Pulver is asking for is, are we going to move forward with plans to get them to a point that we can start getting bids on what a new PAC would cost from a contractor, and at that point in time, we'll have a better idea of where these funds are, but we won't, as you said, we'll not have the seismic mitigation.
We will not know that. That's why I want to be really clear. If we kept moving forward and we were building in October, we would have a GMP probably when, Edwin, West Group. So
before DSA approval, we can have discussion with the contractor.
Right. So that would go to DSA when, if we were to just keep going forward? So it would go to DSA in October. They'd have probably 6 months of review, maybe, or so. So by October, we would probably, October, November, December, we'd probably have a GMP. By December, we won't have an affirmative on one of the CTE grants, and we won't have an affirmative on the big 5.3 seismic mitigation dollars because we didn't get the affirmative until after it's built and destroyed. Again, we have a very good track record. If information changed, suddenly the state said we're no longer doing seismic mitigation, we'd have that information. But those answers won't even be known when we would have to move forward with the project. So, but we have a great confidence and track record of what's possible. But there's going to be, I think this is going to be the dilemma. Are we comfortable with not 100% and yet taking that risk for our students and the community? But there is a small risk.
That's what I just really want to make sure I know.
And conversely, just so you said, we won't know. What will we know by then? Do you have a good idea about that?
Well, we will have a firmer number of the actual hard cost. And once we have the hard cost, we can calculate the soft cost. Mm-hmm. And even still, typically, if we use a 25% soft cost, is that the percentage we use, Tim, 25% right now? Yeah. I actually think we'll get it down to, at least if it's been similar to our other projects, 20%. But you never know with our soil conditions and things of that sort, so you'd have to build it. So we would at least know that. So now maybe that what we thought was a gap of $4 million, maybe it's only a gap of $2 million. We'll know by then. By June, we'll know the one-time dollars from the governor or from the state. What else would we know? I think it would be that.
If I may, for the seismic, the State Department, the DSA approved phase 1
Right. So West Group, part of the study over the last 3 months is, would we even qualify, meet the requirements? So we met phase 1 requirement for seismic mitigation, which is a great sign. I mean, if we didn't pass that, they probably would not have even gone forward with the design aspect. So thank you for that. That's an important piece I forgot to mention.
So just to clarify, so a yes vote will get us through to June or October, by the time where we have a lot more information of our hard costs, soft costs, the one-time funds that we would get, perhaps the CTE grant. So it sounds like we would have a lot of
CTE. No, I'm sorry. By October, neither CTE will know, because we'll file the CTE sports medicine, I think it is, June of this year. Good news is we already earned it for modernization. We haven't applied for it for new construction. So I think that's a good.
I think maybe the way we look at this is that what we're approving tonight is basically the cost for West Group to go forward and to get us to a place where we are able to then get construction bids. And so we're not approving construction, we're approving that. And what Dr. Pulver's saying is, if we get to that point and now it's $40 million and we don't see how we can do that, now that money, we're not going to get back. And now we're going to have to pivot and go in a different direction. And that's money that we will have spent not doing a project. So I think if we clarify it that way, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it.
Okay.
Absolutely. 2 thumbs up. That makes more sense to me. Given that this is just a feasibility study, given that there is a delta, given that, we don't have those hard costs yet, we haven't gone out to a builder. I think that if this is a yes vote, go get that information to us so we can make more of an informed decision. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, thank
great.
you.
Mrs. Davidson, was there something you wanted to share?
I just quickly, we need new microphones.
Yes, we did.
It's a small cost.
Find that in the budget.
So I really appreciate what Mrs. Partizani asked. I mean, we are responsible for the budget, but I also was waiting, and she always runs everything so smoothly, to hear what Mrs. Hill said, because of her background as the chairperson, as on the oversight committee, and having been involved in a lot of buildings, the construction that we've done. I was waiting to hear what you said, and I thought it was very powerful in terms of looking back. We had to make a leap of faith to put the 3rd story on, and we made a leap of faith to not build a gym that was a practice gym.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine now the idea of a practice gym. It would have been short-sighted for the future. We have a great partnership with West Group. You are incredibly professional, responsible, and innovative. So I think that I don't think of this at all as a gamble. I think it's an educated decision to move forward based on past experience, trust, and present outcomes with our 3-story building and our gym. And so I'm very much in favor of moving forward.
We're moving forward.
Great.
Thank you.
I just want to be real lastly clear, is there will still be what we will fully manage, but there will be some heavy complications that our business team continues to take a look at, is from a cash flow, because you no longer have bond sales to be able to suddenly get all the dollars to be able to fund the bills as they come in. Many of these grants won't come in until after the project. So we will be able to do some interfund borrowing from within our investments and other areas of our budget, that then when the money comes back, we'll be able to. We will manage that, even if we have to go take a small a loan out. I don't think that that's going to be required, but from a cash flow standpoint, that's going to be probably the next hurdle that we will manage, and we will manage it effectively. I'm not even worried about it.
Well, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation and your vision. As I said, these are things that we did not think were even possible, and you're helping us get there. So, all right. Mrs. Reed, we are on to you. Let's talk about coursework. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, President Hill. We're going to really shift focus from building to some teaching and learning this evening. So I want to come back with some outside coursework policy recommendations. As you know, I gave a workshop at the March 10th Board of Education meeting where I outlined a lot of the committee work that the outside coursework committee had completed, as well as presented a two-phase plan. And so I wanted to start this evening with a slight recap for people who are tuning in for the first time. But in March, the board received an initial report about the committee work, which really convened to examine how outside coursework is approved, monitored, and really applied towards graduation credit here for our Griffins. And so the committee engaged in a structured review process that really included an analysis of current policies, a review of comparable policies across the county, an examination of student participation trends and scheduling patterns, because those really are a big component of us outlining this, as well as considerations of transcript integrity, GPA implications, and any program impacts that could come. And so the key findings from this work really included that we once again had a growing number of students that were completing outside coursework for acceleration and flexibility, particularly still in those social science classes, that nearly half of the juniors enrolled at the high school were only enrolled in a 5-period day. So this did raise some questions about overall academic engagement and alignment with our district board visions and goals. Our current board policy really lacked some clear guardrails, so it had no unit cap. And some of our practices were really inconsistent and needed to be put into a policy measure. And then when we looked at comparable districts, they did typically define limits, as well as the majority of comprehensive high schools had students through junior year enrolled in a full school day or 6 periods. And so through the analysis, the committee really centered its work on balancing 3 core priorities: student opportunity, so really making sure our kiddos had that flexibility, access, and ability to accelerate their schedules; program integrity, so what is the rigor of our transcript as well as the value of our diploma; and then program sustainability. So as we look at students taking courses offsite and building those guardrails, what does staffing, course availability, and then enrollment stability look like as we build that into the master schedule? And so at the March workshop, we really introduced a 2-phase approach. Phase 1 was the foundational updates to board policy 6146.1, which is on the agenda tonight as a second reading. And then phase 2 was the development of a comprehensive policy and administrative regulation to bring clarity, consistency, and transparency to the details in that outside coursework. So tonight, we have a second reading of phase 1 of the plan. And so I do want to bring some attention. Anything with a strike through is removed language from the first reading on March 10th. Anything underlined is new language from the first reading on March 10th. And anything underlined and highlighted is a revision for this second reading, so something added on. And that was due to getting some feedback from the board while we were presenting. So it was intentional to leave some of that information to provide opportunity for the board to discuss and then come back with those revisions for the second reading. And so the revision really is that the 6th day would not start until the class of 2029, so that current sophomores would not be impacted by the full school day. It would be our current freshman class moving up. And I also added a line in there in accordance with Board Policy Administrative Regulation 6146.11. That would be the new policy, so that it would make sure that parents or students directed themselves to the guardrails and the explanations if they were just looking at our big policy on high school graduation credits. And so this is coming forward with the revisions that are highlighted tonight for action as a second reading. Phase 2, which is on the board docket tonight as a first reading, is that big comprehensive policy that we talked about last meeting. And so the new policy is 6146.11, alternative credits towards graduation. And the purpose of this policy really is to establish the expectations and guardrails for outside coursework that are applied towards graduation credit. And it really helps ensure those priorities, the academic integrity, the rigor, as well as the equity, because we know that we had practices in place before that weren't potentially being used equitably student per student. And so by putting it into a policy, we can assure that every student's transcript and diploma are treated the same. And so key policy commitments that are embedded in this are that outside coursework is supplemental and that it must align with district graduation expectations in case in the future graduation expectations change, as we have seen them change just in these last few years with the new supplement of the personal finance. So as those happen, this automatically gets encumbered. Students may not concurrently be enrolled in 2 comprehensive high schools for graduation credit. So under Ed Code, students aren't allowed to be enrolled in 2 comprehensive schools at the same time that are public funded. And so that's why it's in the summertime we see our students, when they're not technically enrolled with us, logging into and signing on to free courses, for example, Pacific Coast High School or Access. And so they're not going to be concurrently enrolled, meaning they're taking that class while they're enrolled in their fall classes or spring classes here at Los Alamitos High School. That the coursework must be pre-approved, aligned and WASC accredited. We can't assign high school graduation credit here in the state of California if a class isn't WASC accredited, and that it needs to be aligned to A through G and NCAA requirements as applicable. And then we would establish those clear guardrails. So a maximum of 40 total units of outside coursework towards graduation. That's the maximum we'd be allowing on a diploma. District retains final authority on credit acceptance and application. And that the district funded summer courses, known as Griffin Connections currently, I didn't name it there in case names change, would be prioritized for students who are enrolled in a 6-period day the following school year. So this wouldn't mean that a student who was in a 5-period day their senior year, who took a summer class, their rising senior summer wouldn't be forced to a full 6-period day by taking that course. However, because the purpose of Griffin Connections was to alleviate students who had an impacted schedule, we would be prioritizing our free class first to those students who would be enrolling in a full school day the next school year. That doesn't mean that students couldn't enroll in an outside provider, but the purpose of Griffin Connections really was our vision of the 4 A's and this ability to create flexibility in the schedule for students who were so impacted that they couldn't fit their day in 6 periods. So keeping our summer funded options as a priority. Now, should they not fill with students who are going to take a 6-period day, then we would open it up, but that would be our first priority to our families. And that equity and access commitment, so that it requires clear communication and consistent implementation across all student groups so that we're clearly communicating with families, it's posted, and that it ensures all students have equitable access to opportunities and expectations.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed, can you help explain the maximum of 40 total units of outside coursework toward graduation? How many courses does that come to?
4.
So 4. So during your 4, high school years, you're allowed 4 courses to be taken outside.
Yes, ma'am.
And what if you decide to do 6? It can show up on your transcript, but it doesn't count towards graduation, or you don't even accept it as part of the transcript?
We would not be accepting it as part of graduation credits. Mm-hmm. So graduation, sometimes there's 2 really things that could happen. Sometimes students take more classes than needed for graduation. Mm-hmm. That happens now, and we don't place them on our transcript. Students are always able to take additional coursework and submit that transcript separate from ours when they're applying to universities. Okay. What we're saying is that 4 core courses that are needed to get a high school diploma, we're not going to take more than 4 from an outside agency, and then we're not going to put more than 40 on your transcript. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you can't submit additional. Yes. 40 would be our guardrail, and the 220 we require for a high school graduation diploma.
Okay, thank you.
Additionally, the regulation would include more details. So as a reminder, the community, the policy is the big vision, and the regulation has some more specific to-dos about how we're going to execute things. And so the coursework must include instruction, assessment, and documented completion. So as we're approving those, that will be part of the process we're looking for, aligned to district course standards and graduation requirements. We're not going to be able to take a course that doesn't align to a graduation requirement we have and still count it as a graduation requirement. That credit's awarded based on district equivalency. So this is something we run in a lot. In our transcripts, we do full credit. We don't offer partial credit. So we're also not going to accept partial credit from an outside organization. So if you only completed half of semester 1 of world history, we're not taking any of it. You would have to complete the entire semester for us to be able to put, because we log credits by semester, 5 units a semester, 10 units total for a course. So we won't be taking in partial credits. That you can't duplicate duplicate previously completed courses. So just to rack up additional units. We're not going to put a duplicate course on your transcript. That recorded on the transcript is only up to 40 units, and that we won't be weighting your GPA based on outside coursework that is completed. Outside coursework cannot be used to reduce enrollment below minimum requirements. So should you take a course over your rising senior summer, you'll still be required to be enrolled in 5 periods as a senior. That won't reduce your required enrollment to 4 periods. Conversely, so for a freshman, sophomore, or junior, if they took a summer class, they'd still be required to be enrolled in a full school day. Taking a summer class doesn't reduce our minimum requirements below enrollment. And so clear communication of timelines and procedures to families, that's something that we've heard ongoingly is a mixed message. So the administrative regulation really puts that on us to make sure families have this information accurately. Ongoing monitoring, usage, and compliance, that we're re-looking at our systems ongoingly. That was part of what the committee talked about. Things are moving so fastly in this world of online schooling and the way that kids are trying to be creative to create a rigorous transcript for admissions to universities, that we want to come back and relook at this and make sure that our policies aren't outdated and that they're still serving our community and our interest. And then alignment with graduation policy, grading practices, and student records. So the same practices that exist in other board policies and administrative regulations when it comes to courses and grading will apply here in this setting as well. And so wanted to just really give a refresh about the 2 things that were on the agenda tonight: a second reading of 6146 and a first reading of 6146.11.
And may I ask a question? And Mrs. Reed, so I really appreciate, and if you don't mind, just to refresh our memory of the work that has gone into proposing this 6-day for 9 through 11 and 5-period day for seniors. If you don't mind just resharing that.
So as I shared at the March 10th, the board workshop, that really wasn't the point or even a goal or really even an area that the committee was looking to investigate. When we started to look at the rising number of students, again, that were taking outside coursework, but still unfulfilled sections and it not making sense where students were and the number of sections we were offering based on who's taking courses off-site and looking at the master schedule, we started looking a little bit more broadly as to where are students and how do sections account at the high school. That was when we noticed many other districts, because we were looking at comparable policies, required their students to be enrolled in a full school day up through junior year. That started to become a question of ours, and so we started running the data and looking at the trends of the number of students that we have enrolled that start to access a 5-period day, so a reduced schedule, beginning junior year instead of beginning senior year. And I think we were all pretty amazed. I was really surprised that we had 50% of our students junior year not engaged in a full school day with us. So that started to really make a lot more sense at where, I mean, think if you have 790 in a graduating class, if you take half of that, you're looking at, 350-ish students not enrolled in a section somewhere junior year. So that was also contributing to the decline in sections, not just the increase in outside coursework. And so that's how it became part of the story. We then reached out to every Orange County high school, so any district that has a comprehensive high school, and found out that we were really one of only 5 districts in the county that didn't require students to be engaged in a full school day, 6 periods through junior year. And so last workshop, we really went through each of those districts and looked at the parallels between what our expectations, and that really kind of aligns to that commitment to the value of our diploma, as well as the rigor of a transcript when we're looking at this. And so although we came to look at outside coursework, part of what emerged from the data was a different story about a large section of our junior class that is not engaged in a full school day. So that became part of the work at hand for the committee.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reed, and we will look for those policies and towards you as we move forward. So our last presentation is the quarterly report on the Williams uniform complaints, and Dr. Reese-Wright.
Thank you, Madam President. My presentation is very brief. We have no report. We have no Williams complaints to report from the last quarter.
You are my favorite presenter tonight. All right. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on to consent items. So we have several polls. So I am going to look for a motion for consent items 10A through E, G through L, or I, L, Q through AO.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. I will now look for a motion for item 10F.
Second?
Discussion?
Yes. I pulled that item. It's approval of an overnight extended field trip for 3 LaSalle High School song and cheer students to attend Team Up for St. Jude in Memphis. And it's part of a partnership with the song and cheer program and St. Jude's that has gone on for a very long time. And it's got such tremendous heart, and it's involved the whole community. But there's a person sitting here who can tell the story much better. So Mrs. Reed, would you explain about it?
Thank you so much, Mrs. Davidson. So our Song and Cheer program has held a Song and Cheer clinic in the community for close to 30 years, where the ladies of the program invite other students and from really preschool through 8th grade to join them on the field and through a week of practices. And so although that's been going on for 30 years, when I started looking at this, they've only partnered with St. Jude for about 8 years. So about 8 years ago, the partnership grew. And in that time, the Song and Cheer families have raised over $50,000 for St. Jude. And out of the last 5 years that St. Jude has been running a national campaign for schools to raise money for them, our high school has been the top donor for 3 of the last 5 years. And so it really is a huge...
Absolutely.
A huge commitment of the families in our community, as well as Coach Ramirez and her coaching staff and the ladies that come through those teams. That they host over 250 students PK through 8 on the field and after school that week. And so I think it's really just a great thing that our community is now known for, and such a way to positively impact both the students that participate and the community around us. So 3 young ladies and Coach Ramirez will be traveling to the headquarters of St. Jude for they've won 3 times, but the first time was in 2020, so they didn't get to visit. So this will be the second time they've got to visit at the national headquarters and receive their recognition of being the high school that's raised the most and dented that kind of big vision for them.
Thank you so much.
It also teaches philanthropy, which is so important. So thank you so much. So I had a first, a second. We've had discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. The next one I am looking at is I'd like a motion for 10M.
Second?
Discussion?
I had asked for this one to be pulled just in recognition of the work that we do around professional development, specifically around the key shifts that are happening in the California math framework. And Mrs. Reed, if you'd like to comment on that.
A little touchy tonight. Thank you so much, Mrs. Partisani. We've really been focused as a K-12 organization this year in really examining the instructional shifts and the framework. So I think our community is probably really aware of mathematical standards. And so when we talk about standards, that's the actual what that students are learning in the classroom. But the framework is a larger document that really outlines the pedagogy, or the how we're going to achieve those standards. And so every about 7 years, the California Department of Ed brings together a group of professionals to rewrite the framework and look at the standards to make sure we're still meeting the needs of a diverse California student population. And so there was quite a shift in the mathematical framework. And so prior to us going into an adoption, because new standards and framework always indicate new textbooks on the horizon, we really wanted to pause and make sure that our teachers were educated on the instructional shifts of the framework. So already this school year, we have engaged our K-5 teachers that will be piloting curriculum in a full day of learning on the shift of these standards. And then upcoming, we have a day for 612 teachers, all 612 math teachers, to really engage and understand the why of how we teach mathematics, and then how that why is aligned to the what and where we're going when we look at a year's scope and sequence. So we're really excited about it. I think it's also a really great time just to calibrate conversations with teachers about the practices we have in our classroom and how instructional design can really meet the needs of all learners in the classroom.
Yes, thank you so much. And I wanted to highlight that because I think it shows our commitment through professional development and really helping our teachers, learn the new methodology in a practical way. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now looking for a motion for 10N.
So moved.
Discussion?
Yes, so the next few I asked to pull, again, really with the, under the notion that I think that these are some really important investments that we as a district are making. And I just wanted to highlight this one specifically. It focuses on business and entrepreneurship pathway. And if you don't mind talking about
Absolutely,
that.
Mrs. Partisani. So the K-12 Strong Workforce Grant really is going to help the high school launch their new CTE business and entrepreneurship pathway next school year. This grant also supports teacher professional learning, curriculum development, and the materials that we need to start up this program. It also gives us a dedicated work-based learning technician who will support the CTE team through the county team. That really helps build the community business partnerships that are going to be integral to the level 2 and capstone classes for our kids. And so we're really hoping it's a way to build an engaging focus on industry advisors, as well as coordinating works-based learning opportunities for students who engage in the new business pathway.
Love it. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Looking for a motion for 10O.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes. So as we talked about at the AI task force that's underway, one of the great things about it is that they are looking at various tools to help teachers perform and utilize this new technology in the best possible way. And so what I wanted to do is really highlight, this is an approval for a tool. It's an AI teaching and learning tool. And I believe, let me see if I understand. Okay, yes, it's to pilot the Magic School in select classrooms. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying as part of my board comments, that I love that we're learning, we are piloting, and then we're refining before we scale. So that's just such a great way, instead of just jumping on the first technology tool that we see. So if you have anything you'd like to add to that, I'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Daniel Bennett. So Dr. Bennett, our educational technology coordinator, has really been leading this work. And he really is so mindful and thoughtful about the process, not only from an instructional lens, but also its impact on classroom teachers and its pervasiveness of what it might look like for a student, both at school and in the home environment. Because I think there are other concerns when we talk about AI that families may have about the way students learn. And so they're using Magic Schoolhouse at in 4 through 12, as well as on tonight's agenda, there's P, which is also looking at Scholastic AI as another modality, and kind of getting, just like you said, this opportunity for a smaller group of teachers who are part of the task force, try this in their classroom, pose questions, take it to their teams to look to see, how can this fit for us? Is this something we're ready to do? Is this something maybe we want to branch out now to a larger group of teachers and get more feedback before we really jump into something that's large scale that could potentially have a great impact in the way that students interact with the world around them and become useful learners? Because I think that's a new term that we're really trying to, how do you associate useful learning when we talk about all this emerging technology, because we still want to make sure at the core of what we do that students have an academic struggle and understand how to research and have those practical foundations. I think that our public education, and in particular in Los Alamitos, that we're known for. So what is the marriage and blend of that?
Love it. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And 10P will be our last consent item.
So
Well, we
moved.
still need a vote on it. We still need a
So moved.
second, so we don't need any discussion. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Great. So now we'll move to action items. Action item 11A. And these are resolutions for our employees. And I've asked different board members to read our resolutions. So we're going to start with 11A. Do I have a motion?
Second.
And Chris, would you please read that?
Yes, tonight we proudly shine a light on the incredible contributions of our classified professionals, the dedicated individuals whose work often happens behind the scenes, but whose impact is felt in every classroom, hallway, and school office, from keeping our campuses clean and safe to making sure students get to school, have meals to eat, access to technology, and receive the support they need. Our classified staff are truly the backbone of our district. They are the quiet heroes who show up early, stay late, and do their work with care, pride, and a deep commitment to our students and staff. In sincere appreciation for all they do, the Board of Education proclaims May 17th through the 23rd, 2026 as Classified School Employee Week in Los Alamitos Unified School District. We are so very grateful for the heart and hard work they bring to our schools every single day.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Roll call.
Mrs. Parasani. Aye. Mrs. Davidson. Aye. Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand.
Aye.
Mr. Bragman.
Aye.
Wonderful. So I'll look for a motion for 11B.
So move.
Second.
And Mrs. Davidson, would you read that, please?
California Day of the Teacher. Tonight, we have a moment to honor the teachers who make such a profound difference in our lives and in the lives of their students. As a former teacher, I know how much heart, effort, and love goes into every lesson, every conversation, and every quiet moment of encouragement. Teachers are ones who shape futures, spark curiosity, and believe in students even when they may not yet believe in themselves. Their impact reaches far beyond the classroom. It's in the confidence they build, the passions they help ignite, and the hope they instill for what's possible. On behalf of the Board of Education, we proudly proclaim May 13th, 2026 as California Day of the Teacher in the Los Alamitos Unified School District. We are forever grateful for the dedication, passion, and selflessness that our teachers show each day and the lasting legacy they create in the hearts and the minds of our students.
Beautiful. Roll call, Mrs. D'Angelo.
Mrs. Parasani. Proudly aye. Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Aye. Mr. Bragman.
Aye.
Fabulous. Passes 5-0. Next is 11C and Mrs. Partisani.
A motion.
Oh, no, sorry.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Mrs. Partisani. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, tonight we recognize the incredible leadership and dedication of our school administrators, from principals and assistant principals to instructional leaders, business officials, and classified administrators. These professionals ensure student success by supporting teachers, managing school operations, and creating safe, inclusive learning environments. Their work impacts every aspect of our schools, helping to shape the future of education in our district. In appreciation of their dedication, the Board of Education proclaims May 1st, 2026 as the Day of the School Administrator. We thank our administrators for their leadership, their hard work, and unwavering commitment to our students, staff, and community.
Thank you very much. Roll call, Mrs. D'Angelo.
Mrs. Parasani.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson. Aye. Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Aye. Mr. Bragman.
Aye.
Fabulous. We are now on to 11D, which is the second reading and approval of revised board policy 6146.1. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you so much, President Hill. Bringing forward the board policy with the amendments as described earlier, inserting the language that the full school day begins with the class of 2030, in addition to adding an annotation that additional information is available at board policy 6146.11, alternative credits towards graduation.
Do I have a motion? I have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. The next is action 11E, and it's the first reading of approval of board policy 6146.11. And Mrs. Reed?
Thank you so much, President Hill. As described earlier tonight, this is phase 2 of our committee work, and so we're bringing forward for a first reading the details on how the 40 units allowable under board policy 6146 would operate, as well as information as to how those guardrails pertain to students and families.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? And a second? All those in favor? Or any discussion? I'm sorry. Because it is first reading of a policy? No discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. We are now moving on to 11F, and Dr. Reese-Wright.
If the board wanted, they could probably consider taking F and G together for time's sake when the motion comes up.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we're bringing forward the tentative agreements between both of our bargaining units with CSEA and LAEA. We're very fortunate to be in a district where we have really positive partnerships with our bargaining associations. Big shout out to our lead negotiator with LAEA, Mrs. Lori Avalos, who has hung in here this whole time. Her work, as well as the work of Andy McCown with CSEA, is really instrumental in us being able to reach these agreements. So tonight, we are asking for approval of the tentative agreements with LAUSD and CSEA, Chapter 324, that's 11F, which would authorize an increase of 1.375% on salary schedule compensation, retroactive to July 1st, 2025 for all unit members.
And do we want to take, we want to take a motion to do F and G together? And
Great.
Okay.
So G, very similarly with LAEA and LoSal USD, 1.375% on salary increase.
I will happily make the motion to approve F and G.
Discussion? Just on, yes, thank you very much. Yeah. And our partnership with our employees is what keeps our school district going, and we are very, very appreciative. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Now we're moving on to 11H, and Dr. Reese-Wright. Okay. Dr. Reese-Wright, why don't you just chat about them and then we'll decide. You got it.
So the various salary schedules that are impacted by the 1.375% increase include the student supervision assistant salary schedule. They're employees that are not represented by CSEA, and so that salary schedule is taken separately, as well as the confidential supervisor and FMOT, manager supervisory salary schedule, and the counselor, psychologist, athletic director, activities director, and admin salary schedule.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion for H, I, and J? So moved. Second?
Second.
Great. First and second. And once again, our staff is exceptionally important to us. And so all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Fabulous. We are now moving on to K, which is approval of our school calendars. And Dr. Reese-Wright.
Yes. Every year we work with LAEA to plan out the school calendar for 2 years in advance. That's our commitment to our community. And so tonight we're bringing forward the 2028-29 school calendar with all of the major breaks that are listed for all of our schools and for Weaver separately.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. And that is something that that is in negotiations, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Now we're moving on to 11L, adoption of retirement resolutions. Dr. Reese-Wright.
Yes, we're really excited. As you know, we passed a large retirement incentive last year that captured a lot of employees, but we do have 9 employees who will be retiring with us this year that have submitted so far, and so we are recommending approval of that resolution.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs.
Pardon me?
Parasani? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Mr. Bragman?
Aye.
Dr. Pulver, did you want to add
Well,
something?
I would just share that there are, we love our employees, and there are some giants who are on that retirement list, one of which who is in this room. And so she's been a teacher of the year and just in so many different ways. And that's true for so many of our employees. And so I just thought it would be lost if we didn't at least, and we'll have an opportunity at our retirement, district retirement ceremony. But the work that our staff do, they give such service to the public and to this community. And so I think we're just indebted to them. So I wanted to take a brief moment to recognize that.
Thank you very
Can I
much.
second, adding on to that? Because I know I said Miss Avalos the other day, I introduced her to my daughter the other day, and I said, oh my gosh, you have to have Miss Avalos. And I didn't even think about that. But every student that's had her and these wonderful staff are just so lucky. And it is, I know we'll have a celebration of them in a couple weeks here at the district office. It was really special last year with so many people. It'll be a smaller group, but it'll be really fun to just celebrate the retirees.
Congratulations. So we did a roll call.
Correct.
We had perfect comment from Dr. Pulver. So now we are going to move on to the adoption of resolution 2025 through 2026, authorizing the Los Alamitos Unified District to increase developer fees. Dr. Pulver.
So I shared much of this during the public hearing. So I don't need to say much more, but this basically will allow us to increase the developer fees by 21 cents for residential development, and by 3 cents to commercial. So it'll be $5.38 for residential and 87 cents per square foot, because we met the needs of the study, and then the increase can't increase again for another 2 years based upon the levels set by the state.
Do I have a motion? A second?
I'll second.
This once again is a roll call. Mrs. D'Angelo.
Mrs. Parasani? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Mr. Bragman?
Aye.
Fabulous. Okay, moving on to 11N. This is the adoption of resolution of the Board of Education acting as the legislative body of the Community Facilities District. And it's related to the increasing of the levy of special taxes within the community facilities. Dr. Pulver.
Yeah, so this is commonly referred to as the Melrose. You might recall the Melrose does carve out Leisure World. So this is increasing the Melrose tax annually by 4.75%, which is allowed. So per the dwelling unit, the tax for 26-27 will be $287.07. And the reason we really need to do this is back when the first measure K was passed, when we were able to do all the modernizations of all 8 schools and a little bit at the high school, the way we were able to maximize those projects is we actually had to borrow, they're called certificates of participation, funds to be able to do the projects faster than the way the bond dollars could come through. So we borrowed against the Melrose. So for us to be able to pay those COPs, we have to increase the Melrose every year, and we have done so since then by the allotted amount of 4.75.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. D'Angelo?
Mrs. Parasani? Aye. Mrs. Davidson? Aye. Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. Mr. Bragman?
Aye.
All right, we're moving on to 11O, which is the adoption of resolution authorizing filing of the application for state allocation board administrative programs. Dr. Pulver.
Yes, I'm pinch hitting for Mrs. Schnur tonight, but this resolution acknowledges that the district is aware of the requirement for the 5-year facility master plan in order for us to receive state funding. And when the district does not have a Prop 2 compliant 5-year master plan at this time, we will comply with that requirement by the time state funds are released. And so it's just acknowledging our knowledge of that and ensuring that we will meet that requirement before the funds become available.
Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Mrs. D'Angelo?
Mrs. Parasani? Aye. Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Mr. Bragman?
Aye.
All righty. Now we are moving on to the approval of warrants. And I'm looking for a motion for 11P. Second?
Second.
Thank you. 86 pages. This is the district's checkbook. And we had 86 pages. I think that font is 4 to go through. So I had a motion. I had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We can pay our bills. Acceptance of donations, our very generous community. So we will, we get an opportunity to thank many of the ones that participate in our community, but I know there's even many more that are on here related to booster clubs and other things that don't come through. So total for this period was over $27,000. Year to date is over almost $846,000. So do I have a motion?
Second, and thank you again.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our last items are our 11R, S, and T, and I recommend that we take them all together, and those are our classified, certificated, and administrative personnel reports. And Dr. Reese-Wright.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, tonight we bring forward the 3 personnel reports reflecting changes since our last meeting, and we recommend approval as submitted.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. I am now going to move us into closed session, and thank you.